Hey everybody, so we're going to talk about the nodes, okay? A lot of you said, based on the video that I made last week, where I kind of broke down how we do relationship, how we do love. Um, I did mention that including the nodes would have been would have made that very long video even a little longer. So we just lightly referenced them, but we're going to go through them in this video. And your nodes, if you know your nodes, then you understand how very important they are. In evolutionary astrology, which is looking at astrology through the lens of psychology, we look very closely at Chiron, the North and South Node, as well as Black Moon Lilith, right? So let's take a third of that and really break it out to understand the nodes. Now, the nodes are definitely worth understanding because it's always focusing on something, no matter how hard we try to avoid thinking about the issues that our nodal positions bring up. So our nodal, especially in North and both North and South Node, they could bring up issues in our life. It's those very issues that will ultimately end up haunting us until we actively engage with those energies and unpack them in our life. And part of what drives us to understand the nature of the nodes is that those behaviors holding us back or pushing us forward are often pretty predictable problems associated with the node's sign or the node's house placement, right? And they're both important, guys. So it's not enough to just know, like, North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra. You have to know those houses. So you're going to be looking at for those placements, okay? The North and the South Node signs, as well as the North and South Node house placements. So make sure that you're watching the video for both of those axes, because that's how they're presented. They're presented as axes. Now, um, the thing is with these placements, we can't, the issues that they bring up, we're not supposed to be able to easily solve them. So if you have a problem that you can't understand, that just keeps tugging at you and keeps challenging you over and over throughout your life, right? Like same song, different tune kind of thing. It's very tempting, very often, I find, to just sort of lay it at Saturn's feet or lay it at Pluto's feet. Unless the nodes aspect Saturn or aspect Pluto, and they might, but unless that's the case, it's probably just the nodes, right? It's just the nodes. Keeps coming up. We never seem to resolve it, right? These issues that just don't go away, no matter how hard you try to change, no matter how hard you try to evolve yourself, is it's the unacknowledged self that's represented by the South Node, right? This is very deep inside of us, right? So you really want to look at that South Node energy for your dark side, because we all have it, right? We all have it. And it's often very hard to see. So between that South Node and Black Moon Lilith, these are our darker energies that we don't often like to call out in ourselves, but that exist mostly in clues given to us by behaviors and mirrors held up to us by people that we feel naturally magnetized to, naturally attracted to, who we just can't seem to escape or live without in our life. Be it that toxic friend or that toxic person in relationship or that very overly giving person, like what's really being mirrored back there, right? And in that way, the South Node exerts this very powerful tug that we really, really do need to question at some point because it will repeat. The repeat of the same person, the same problem, the same situation that keep reoccurring in our lives. But it's more of like that, more of looking at the patterning. Now, maybe that thing that tugs, that attraction, right, is in every sense good for you. Maybe it's something that you just feel really comfortable with. Because the warning here is that too often, what happens here with the South Node energy is that tug is not always absolutely true. Right. So, in other words, like we can do South Node people in our life and things that retain our integrity, but we have to be careful. We have to be sure that we actually want what that South Node is tugging at us towards. right? We have to consciously choose it because again, the South Node is what we're comfortable doing. This is what how we were comfortable being early in our life. It's how we were comfortable, very connected to past lives as well. If you don't believe in past lives, that's fine. You want to really connect this then to your earlier environment in your life. And it's our default. It's where we're comfortable. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a challenging thing, but it does mean that we have a tendency to be a little too heavy-handed in that area where we have to end up balancing it out with the North Node. Now, the North Node points to key lessons in life. It does speak to new experiences toward which we all must aim during this life. Now, you've already learned the skills of the opposite point, right? Which would be that South Node energy. Again, be it in past lives or your early childhood experiences, whatever it is. But now you have to grow and stretch yourself through the North Node. And the challenge with this nodal axis is to use the past skills of the South Node, but be able to learn the new skills that challenge you of the North Node in order to feel this wholeness that you're meant to achieve in this life. And that's, that's the part that we have to understand. Right. And that South Node, again, it does represent, we speak a lot about this, in different astrology videos. I'm sure you may have heard it from other people, but it is very connected to past life karma, that South Node, skills, achievements, which represent our past life, again, or early years. So we need to use those, right, in the present life to learn the lesson of that opposite point North Node, which is going to feel a little outside of our comfort zone, outside of our wheelhouse. It's not supposed to feel comfortable, right? But we have to continue to fall back on the path. We have to do that to a degree. We can't keep doing that though, as we evolve as people. We can't keep falling back to our old ways, our early environment, our past lives. We have to release what we thought we knew or we thought we needed from that area in the chart that's covered by the South Node by asking the North Node for some help. That's the only way to balance this out. And the challenge with the nodal axis is to use those past skills to be able to develop the North Node skills. And it's again, it's a little uncomfortable. So again, just to recap before we get into the specific axes, the South Node represents your past life patterns, early in life patterns, habits. It's also very connected though to your innate skills. So it's not all challenging. This is what I'm saying. Like the skills that you innately possess, that you just naturally have. It's what feels comfortable for you, but it's also the very thing that ultimately ends up limiting your growth. So overuse of this energy equals stagnation. Okay, so that's where you really have to pull yourself away from that South Node to balance it out with the North Node, which represents your soul's purpose and what you're learning to embody. It feels uncomfortable or unfamiliar at first, but when consciously developed, it absolutely unlocks your greatest opportunities, your greatest fulfillment, where you will feel the most fulfilled. So together, these two together are the axis of your evolution, describing how to integrate lessons of both ends rather than just abandoning one over the other. And the reason I say that is because I do hear a lot of astrologers saying South Node, it's K2, it's the tail of the dragon, it's about excretion, it's about letting go, release, letting go, letting go, letting go. It's not about letting go, though, guys. It's not. It's about recognizing we have to balance the scales because the nodes on their own, it's like, I'm saying scales, which is obviously, is the glyph for the sign of Libra. I don't mean it, let's put that on the side for a minute. But you want to picture that every axis in astrology, right? We have 6 main axes, right? In the house. Houses 1 and 7, 2 and 8, 3 and 9, 4, 10, 5, 11, 6, 12. Okay. All it just means is like these oppositions. So the North and South Node, it's the same thing. Whatever house the North Node is in, the South Node is in automatically in the opposite house. There's no variation on that ever, right? It's an axis, right? But every axis, the opportunity that we have is to kind of stand in the middle of the axis, almost like the line is a seesaw. right? And we have to balance out that seesaw. So it's not about letting go, it's about understanding that naturally the south node is here and the north node is here, right? What the south node is here and the north node is here, however you want to look at it. But there's no balance there. We have to create the balance in our life. Okay. We have to create that balance. So with that, let's get started. Let's start talking about the axes, the different axes. So again, you want to listen to, I'm going to say for each of these, I'll say North Node in the first house or Aries, and then the South Node in the seventh house or Libra. So you want to look at your chart and you want to see which sign, listen to that axis, and then listen to the house axis as well. Okay, guys? All right, let's get into it. Okay, so let's first start with that North Node in the first house, Aries, first house or Aries, and then the South Node is in the seventh house or Libra energy. So for you, this is all about becoming assertive and empowered. That's the journey that you want. Now, you do have a tendency to be indecisive, often considering the needs of other people first. Now you need to discover a sense of your own identity and initiate your own projects. This is a journey to learn to serve humanity in one way or another. You need to let go of possessive and passionate personal relationships, things that you completely want to do in order to carry out some sort of detached service for other people, considering other people. Right? This is what we need to ultimately do here. The trap that you have to be careful of here, though, is this preoccupation with justice, right? Because having that seventh house in the house of justice, um, it becomes a little tricky, but that's where we need to balance it out, where you say to yourself, okay, in order for me to survive, my ability to survive is dependent on everyone playing fair with me, right? Fair in relationship, fair in work, right? Because that seventh house is also your boss or your bosses. It's all kinds of contracts. It's also your energetic output at work. Right? So if you feel like that, right, this signal to you should signal that you are on very shaky ground. You're very giving by nature, but your need for justice and absolute fairness ends up being a cup with a hole in it. It's a bottomless pit. You can start playing fair with yourself by not giving beyond a point that feels comfortable for you. Even if you know that nothing's going to be reciprocated, it's not about that, right? It's about giving because it's something that you feel right about and you feel comfortable. Now, you also need to avoid this unending search for an ideal committed partnership where you say to yourself, if only I had the perfect person or the perfect partner or the perfect boss or the perfect situation as far as what I do in my day to day with work, then I would feel complete within myself. The feeling of completeness that you're going after here can only be achieved individually. It's not going to be the byproduct of anyone else, be it a relationship, a perfect job, no matter how wonderful your partner is, no matter how amazing your boss is or your job is, that energy that you're still going to be searching for it because you'll never feel like you gain enough approval from others to have full permission to be yourself. And at some point, you have to take the risk and pursue activities that are meaningful to you. And the irony here is that once you go in your own direction, the appropriate people are automatically and very spontaneously going to be very drawn to you, right? And not only drawn to you, but look to help you, look to support you in your life. Because what you really want is to experience happiness. You want harmony, you want fairness, right? And the support with one partner you just really love, right? But in order for this to happen, you need to be your own partner first by getting to really, really genuinely know yourself. You begin to do things that bring you joy and increase your level of self-nurturing. You start to feel stronger. You start to feel more confident. And you start to naturally feel more supported in life. And as you treat yourself more fairly, you're going to feel the sense of balance and justice that you seek. But it's by not putting all of your eggs in somebody else's basket. And it's only at that point that you can establish a truly healthy partnership wherein both of you share equally with each other without feeling debilitated or without feeling like, because that can happen, right? If you put all of your energy into somebody else, in order for you to feel okay in relationship or okay in work, that's again, that's going to be that bottomless pit energy there. So you need to be able to do your own thing according to your impulses without being limited by the input of others. You are a leader. You are an innovator. You are a pioneer. That's that Mars Aries energy coming in. So with that in mind, you need a profession that allows you the independence to follow your own instincts, right? You're successful in doing things that require initiative and independent actions. So, just based on that axis, anything like an entrepreneur, any kind of like technician or tech where you're like an independent operator. Surgeons often have this nodal axis as well. Um, yeah, so these are important things to consider. Now, having to do with a past life, from past lives, you have the gift of being able to see other people's point of view. You're very, very like diplomatic, and you know how to negotiate diplomatically to make sure that fairness is there, right? That's that Libra influence, that seventh house influence. And you can use this innate ability to further your own success. However, though, if you're dealing with a profession that emphasizes mediating as a final goal, like as a final goal, where there's got to be some sort of mediation, you're generally not as energized as when you're negotiating like talents to reach your independent goals, right? It's more like the whole idea of doing like contract work, or do you know what I'm saying? Like those ultimate mediating kind of goals. That could be, it doesn't mean that you wouldn't be good at it. You just wouldn't be very energized by it. It wouldn't be a point of satisfaction for you. So, some things that you want to focus on. Those of you who've worked with me know that I like to give attributes to develop and things to shake off and leave in the past, right? So, things you want to kind of focus on, really honing, is the idea of independence, self-awareness, trusting yourself, trusting your impulses, being courageous, having constructive self-interest, constructive, right? Which means considering other people at the same time. Moderation and giving. You don't want to be a doormat. You don't want to be overgiving. And you have to practice self-love and self-nurturance. And things you want to kind of keep in the past is seeing yourself through someone else's eyes and being worried about that, right? You want to leave in the past debilitating selflessness. There's no end game there for you. You really want to call yourself out when you're struggling with analysis paralysis, where you just can't make up a decision and you're being Mr. or Miss Nice. Like, I have to be nice to people. I have to be fair. I have to understand everything. Having an obsessive attachment to that fairness, that justice. You have to watch out for any tendency towards codependence, attachment to external harmony. But at the same time, when things go sideways, adopting any kind of tit for tat mentality, right? You want to really be just very mindful of that. Leave that stuff in the past. It's not going to be serving you in any way, shape, or form. So to really help affirm these things that you need to sort of work towards and the things that you need to leave behind, you want to say to yourself, it's really okay to not be nice all the time. And that you can help yourself best by truly and genuinely being yourself. And the best that you can support others is by learning to nurture yourself. That doesn't mean that you can't have interdependence in a relationship. But again, you don't want those scales to be too weighted on someone else being something to you in order for you to feel fulfilled, in order for you to feel happy, in order for you to feel like you're on the path, right? That you need to be on, right? So you want to remember that when you trust yourself and you follow your impulses, everyone wins. That's not you being selfish. That's just you not forgetting to remember yourself. Okay. So hopefully that was helpful. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye. So if you have your North Node in the second house or Taurus and your South Node in the eighth house or Scorpio, this section of the video is for you. So something that you need to look out for or avoid really is you need to seek self-worth and or finances through other people. Okay, where you say to yourself, I can only feel okay about myself and this experience that I'm in through the validation and financial support of this person, and whoever it is, because that eighth house in Scorpio energy is very connected to other people's money, be it a partner, maybe it's like an inheritance, some sort of investment, parental money coming into you, other people giving you money, right? Because this can ultimately end up leading to this unending search for, because of this axis, for a soulmate or where it is that you really believe. Saying, like, if I just have that one person's energy in my life, in the way that I'm manifesting it in my mind, I'm going to feel complete. But in reality, you can only really achieve that sense of completeness within yourself. It's never ever going to come as a byproduct of a relationship, not even with who you feel is a soul connection. Even if it's somebody who is completely like taking care of you in every way, right? No matter how much support, no matter how much validation you actually get from other people, you're always going to feel like you need more. It's almost like the goalpost moves, right? And the reality is, other people's validation for you is a false barometer of whether you're in the right relationship, of whether you're on the right track, whatever it is, right? Living in accordance to standards that you know are right for you, regardless of what anybody else thinks, is the very thing that's going to help you develop your sense of self-worth, regardless of what anybody else thinks. And again, we always want to balance this out. We don't want it to be about becoming an egomaniac and self-absorbed. It's not about that, right? But you have to be able to identify what's right for you. Because at the end of the day, at some point, you have to stop being enmeshed with others and involved in other people's business and simply walk your own path and walk your own truth. It doesn't mean that you have to get rid of anybody in your life. That's not what it's about. But it's just about being too involved in other people's stuff, too enmeshed in what other people are able to give to you. And the ironic part of this is that when you begin to do this, others will support you, be it energetically, be it financially, whatever it is. Because this placement requires a willingness to be independent, especially financially, when it comes to having a confident sense of self. Really important, and not rely on a partner or a family member to give you what it is that you need. Now, what you really want, right, with this particular access, right, is to merge with someone else's energy and feel that mutual empowerment. You're looking for total permanent commitment. You want a partner who you can count on to take care of all of your material needs and but this is not about one-way streets for you. You want them to take care of your material needs and you'll take care of their emotional needs. Or maybe you're more successfully financially. So you'll take care of the finances, but then you expect them to take care of your emotional needs. Expect sounds negative. It's not about that. It's about understanding, like, naturally, that's what you feel like, right? That synergistic relationship that's mutually empowering, that's completely dependable on the other in that way. This is on a soul level. This is something that you want on a soul level. And to successfully establish that kind of relationship, you have to be very discriminating and be sure that you're finding someone with your similar energy and your similar values. Because the shared goals have to be innately valuable to both of you as individuals. Otherwise, you're always going to try to feel like you're making the relationship work. Right. And in order to be able to really do that, you have to really understand yourself and be able to get in touch with your own values. So you must become really strong within yourself and aware of what you want and in tune what really matters to you. And the tricky part here is to establish your own energy systems and figure out who exactly you are as an individual. And the more you focus on that, the stronger you become. And the stronger you become energetically, you're automatically going to attract people of that same very energy and someone who you can develop that version of a successful partnership in the way that you want. See, the problem is not that you want a dependent relationship. The problem is we don't want any codependence. So the trick here for you is you can have the dependent relationship. This will, on a soul level, feel very natural for you. And it won't for some other people, but very natural for you. The key here is to find someone who has the same idea, who has that same soul need, right? So, like when I'm doing like synastry energy, I really look at the nodes, you know? The nodes are so important to have synastry with. Forget the sun, right? I mean, this it's sometimes really matters so very little when it comes to a really good synergistic relationships, right? We really want to look at the nodes. But let's talk about some natural talents and professions because, with this placement for you, you are a master builder. Now, it might be a home or it might be a master builder of relationships or a business. When you are willing to follow the rules, you can successfully build anything. And you really do excel in professions that are in alignment with what you consider to be truly valuable. So, doing something that does not speak to your soul energy, that does not speak to your heart space, is going to be really difficult, right? So, for example, right, you might consider massage to be a tool for healing others that could be profitable for you. Then you will be very successful in that field, right? Massage therapy, let's just use that, right? You can make money in anything that you believe in as valuable and not just for the money. As long as you accept that waiting or expecting anyone to save you or take care of you monetarily in a way that will lead to your security, that needs to be left in the past. All right. That needs to be left in the past. Because the gift here is, and as uncomfortable as it might seem, initially at times, um, that that independence is very connected to your need for security. The truth is, even if somebody offered you the world, you'd still be completely mindful that if they gave you the world, they could also take it away if they wanted to. You know, because with that Scorpio energy, that eighth house energy, the thing is, instability. You know it. You know it all too well. So, with this imprinted into your psyche, at some point, you're going to learn to realize that the only way for you to feel secure is if you provide for yourself in one way or another. And this doesn't mean that you can't trust your partner and have an awesome life, but it is to say that your relationship needs to be built on reciprocity and on fairness and love and absolutely mutual respect, right? Because remember, Venus rules Taurus and Venus believes in growth through fairness and through equity. So generally, your best bet is to do your own thing, either manage your own business or project or work for a company where you could feel like, in some way independent or autonomous, right? You need to sort of forego the immediate results and build one step at a time, becoming comfortable with each step before moving on. I mean, you are somebody also who, when you're growing in your profession, just when you're growing in your life, actually, you tend to take longer steps than somebody else. It may take you a little bit longer to do something, but you do have a very, very special gift for being extremely effective in crisis situations. You have this natural affinity with psychology, and your awareness of the needs and desires of other people can absolutely help you further your own aims in life in general. So by openly acknowledging and using the energies of others in mutually empowering ways, like win-win kind of ways, you can achieve results that end up really quelling an anxious situation, being good for everybody. However, if you involve yourself in something that focuses on psychology or crisis management, you're generally not going to feel very happy. right? So for those of you with this placement where you are involved in the psychology, crisis management in one way or another, you will burn out really fast and you'll end up feeling very empty on the other side of it. So you're much better off using your talents to establish something of very tangible value, which gives you an increased sense of stability, right? So like in like maybe property and real estate or solid investments of any kind, right? Something like that. That's a much better way for you to go, right? So, things you want to focus on working on in your life and developing would be loyalty, awareness of boundaries and taking things one step at a time, right? Nice and slow. A sense of self-worth and patience, awareness of your own personal values, honoring the expressed needs of self and others, right? It's got to be this reciprocity, not only your needs. Can't totally only worry about their needs, right? Really focusing at some point in your life, you may have been working on this, but really developing an attitude of gratitude, enjoying the five physical senses, not forgetting to go out and touch grass, right? And just kind of, ground yourself, right? Forgiveness, persistence. Don't give up too soon, right? Because some ideas that we want to leave behind, but really working on cutting down on the influence of the following tendencies is just going to make your life a lot nicer. So you want to really pay attention and call yourself out when you feel like you are attracted to crisis situations, over concern with other people's business, being impatient, being judgmental, inappropriate intensity when you should be responding to something, maybe you're reacting to something, any kind of preoccupation with psychological motivations of others where you're trying to like play this chess game to figure out like why did they say that, why did they do that, right? Really calling yourself out when you overreact or you resist cooperating with what other people want and need. Any sort of obsessive compulsive tendencies need to be called out. But a really important element that you may resonate with, right, having had this experience at one point in time or another, is destroying something in order to eliminate one part of it. So, for example, like maybe you were in this relationship and let's say they said to you, you have this great energy with this person. You have a lot of fun, blah, blah, blah. But they say, listen, we have to go like 50-50 with the money situation in life, right? I'm not gonna, I can't cover everything. We need to come 50-50. If that one thing rubs you the wrong way, you will end the entire relationship. That's it. That's the entire relationship. And I'm just using that as a basic example, but that's an example of everything else being pretty good, right? Nothing's perfect, you know that. But that one thing, right? I'm using money because stability is very important for you as well. It just is. Whenever the nodes are on this axis, stability is very important. And so for you, if you feel like, that money is that's a deal breaker for you, it doesn't matter how great your relationship is. And if you stay in it, it's always going to bother you. Do you know what I'm saying? So this is something to really, really look out for. So you kind of want to say to yourself, or I like to give these affirmations, you know, um, if you're comfortable, then you're on the right path. If you're feeling comfortable in a situation, that comfort level, that stability lets you know you're on the right path, right? To win, you need to move slowly and persistently, taking things one step at a time. When you live by your own values, you feel good about yourself. Now, this is not to say that me, it's all about, it's got to be about me, but you have to acknowledge your own values and they have to be incorporated. If you're going to be in a relationship with somebody else, that has to be incorporated. And the old saying, what other people think of me is none of my business. That is so true, right? Don't get caught up in what other people say because you're sensitive to that. You're very sensitive to that. So you want to be mindful of that and recognize people are going to think what they think about you, regardless of what you say. Don't even bother going in to try to take that on. Be comfortable within who you are and how it is that you function, and just find peace with that. Okay, my friends, so that is what I have for you. I hope this was helpful in some way. I'll see you next time. Bye bye. Hey guys, so if you have your North Node in the third house, or your North Node in Gemini, or your South Node in the ninth house, or your South Node in Sagittarius, this part is for you. Now, one thing you need to watch out for here, my friends, is be aware of self-righteousness, where you say to yourself, if other people would just acknowledge that I'm right and appreciate me for it, I would feel understood and accepted, which can lead you into this trap, right? This unending search for the truth, unending search, right? Where you always feel like you have to find the right answers. You have to have all the information. Everyone will value you if you have the right answers, if you have all the information. And if they look at you like that, and you're considered like that, then you could relax. Then you could feel connected to people. Then you can enjoy life. But it's really tricky because that's impossible. It's impossible to be right and have all of the information all of the time, you know? And it's very hard to feel very truly good about yourself with this placement. And when you argue and try to convince people that you are right, others don't want to connect with you. So that part can be a little off-putting, and you may have had that experience at one time or another in relationships. But if you have enough humility and openness to really listen to a variety of viewpoints, which you have the energy supportive to be able to do this, even those that don't fit with your set experiences, your set beliefs, you can get to know people in a way that helps you feel more connected. So at the end of the day, at some point, you have to release your own preoccupation with your belief system, your truth, and simply begin to relate to people as you are listening and learning from them. You relate, you listen, you learn, you connect. Because when you do that, in the process of that exchange, your energy just becomes a lot more equitable. The situation becomes a far more relaxed interaction, and truth and your ideas and your views are successfully communicated. And when you really listen to what other people feel for them to be important, your responses become more appropriate and helpful. You know what I mean? Like if you're really listening, where you're not being so reactive, where you already have the comeback before even fully listening to what the other person says, right? If you just take a deep breath and truly listen to what it is that they're saying, and then give a thoughtful response and not a reaction, your response is going to be a lot more helpful. It'll be a lot more of a successful and appropriate interaction. And then people do appreciate you, and then they want to connect with you. Because really, in the end, what you really want is to totally be free, right? You want to be totally free. Because there's this freedom, right? Whenever we have Sagittarius in the ninth house involved in anything, that's that wanderlust energy. But you want to feel free to pursue the truth, have adventures, be spontaneous. But you also want to feel right 100% of the time. And there's no malice coming from this, zero malice. You want to speak completely from your truth and your intuitive process, and you genuinely do believe, coming from a very good place, that your truth is the truth, and that you have to have everyone understand you and learn from you and appreciate your health, your help, right? I know some of these things are a little tricky to hear, but there's a way of getting that need met, right? In order for that to happen, you would have to stop focusing on your truth and begin to focus on the people around you, right? This is a journey in your life where you do need to learn how to listen and understand the information that others are sharing about themselves, about their lives, about their beliefs. And when you listen in this way, sometimes you have an aha moment. an aha insight. That's exactly the perspective that the other person needs. And because this information accurately addresses the other person's problem in that point, obviously it's going to be very gratefully accepted. But trying to come at a problem that someone else might be having, that they're sharing with you, or some sort of shared situation, the lack of recognition of what the other person is feeling or needs, that's not going to work for you, right? So you just want to be mindful of that. Now, as far as what you're really good at and some things that you would be really good at doing in life, you do have the ability, like I said, when you listen, to tune into the specific thought process of other people and give them information that allows them and gives them agency to view problems from a very expanded perspective. So, for that reason, anything having to do with being a writer, anything with selling, teaching, communicating in all forms can bring you happiness, but also material success. Gifts in the area of philosophy and religion, right? All these things that the ninth house represents. It's also law, legalities, local governance, ethics, and morality, right? Are all available to you. You can use your spiritual and your intuitive awareness to understand the thinking of others without losing your own truth. However, if you involve yourself in professions in the pursuit of truth or like religion as a final aim, you may ultimately feel very isolated. So you're much better off when you use your natural talents to deeply connect with others on a day-to-day basis. It's got to be this connection with other people as well. Now, when it comes to like where you're from, we could say past lives, we could say your early environment, but it's that core of your personality. You have had two very different kinds of past life experiences with one very common denominator, the pursuit of truth. You have had incarnations where you pursued the truth on your own as a traveling, as a traveling priest, a wandering nomad in the desert, a hermit, just a simple person who kind of went out to the wilderness alone to learn the secrets of nature and Mother Earth, right? But you've also had many incarnations at seeking the truth on a collective level, becoming absorbed perhaps in religious organizations, some sort of collective ideal. But either way, the seeking the truth kind of thing, spirituality, ethics, enlightenment motivated your entire life, while society and human relationships for you were neglected in past lives. Do you know what I mean? It's like focusing more on the macro than the micro you know but you've had many incarnations, my friends, honestly, as philosophical kings, lifetime after lifetime, whether Buddhist or Hebrew or Muslim or Christian. You left everyone around you to pursue the truth, and this way, in this life, you still tend to leave everyone and go off on your own. All throughout your previous incarnations, you sought enlightenment, whether it was climbing to a mountaintop to reach some sort of pinnacle of truth. But after so many incarnations with the same focus, you found it. There's no need for you to continue the search in this lifetime. Is at the end of the day, on that mountaintop, you became isolated and lonely. And now in this lifetime, the challenge is for you to share the truth, really rejoicing society and staying connected to others and not allowing that isolation. But you do have to be careful of that righteousness, because that can ultimately end up serving to be a bit of a stumbling block to you being able to effectively, in a genuine way, relate to people and feeling that peace and that love that are inherent in true and valuable connectedness. And since you were a philosopher or a priest in past lives or whatever it is, other people always followed your instructions. So energetically, you are used to being regarded as the one who's always right, without question. So it's understandable that you enter this life with this certain type of arrogance. You might have been told that once or twice in other words. However, other people can sense this superior attitude, and this prevents them from listening to you. And as a result, you can start to feel that other people are undervaluing your intelligence because they won't listen to you in the way that you think they should be. And this is an example how you will likely at some point suffer from communication problems with other people in your life. And due to the loneliness and isolation in those past lives, you may seem like you can carry on hours and hours and hours of conversation just with you and yourself, right? You might remember to ask other people a general question like, what's going on? How's it doing? But if the other person turns the attention back to you, you will take the opportunity to run with it. You can go on and on about everything that's happening in your life, recounting your memories, tell a bunch of stories, emerge the hero in every single one without the other person adding much conversation, right? Or much contribution to the conversation, never really getting the chance to interact or share their own story, right? And so for that reason, the other person can easily lose interest in having conversations with you. Because you generally will ultimately, in their view, come off as you just talking about yourself. But after so many lifetimes of being lonely, you feel the need to talk. So, this is not about, always we have to give ourselves grace when it comes to our nodes, right? You're not comfortable with silence because you're associated with isolation on an energetic, on a soul level. Now you want to relate with other people. So if there's silence in the interaction, you feel like there's a problem, and you'll talk about simply anything to fill that void. So you really want to focus in this lifetime on a couple of things. Healthy curiosity, right? Asking questions to really learn what other people are thinking. And you want to exercise tact. You always want to exercise logic, communication of all kinds, but also of and calling out your own internal dichotomies, right? Where because again, that with that third house Gemini energy, which is the energy of dichotomy, where you have to call out where you feel very split, and you may recognize that within yourself. You may find that, on a soul level, you are very dichotomous, meaning that you could believe very much in one way, but at the same time be very this way, right? You could be very, very conservative about some things, but very, very liberal at the other, at the other, on the other side. Um, you may expect a certain way of somebody treating you or somebody considering you, but you may not fully do that to other people, right? Where you expect somebody to really admire and respect you, but then you may not give that to somebody else, right? So it's about recognizing those dichotomies and calling them out. Having a really positive approach to life and other people, purposely cheering other people up, using a very non-threatening approach when expressing ideas. When I say non-threatening, I don't mean that you're threatening other people to go after them. But when I say non-threatening, it's like allowing other people to feel that the conversation with you is a place where they can feel comfortable, seen, and be able to express their idea. You really want to practice listening and being open to new ideas and experiences and going after factual information before making decisions, right? You want to make sure that you're not acting too flippantly. And things that you want to really work on letting go of. Again, it's not about completely letting go, but the tendency to be a little heavy-handed when it comes to self-righteousness or aloofness or assuming that other people know what you're feeling or where you're at, right? Thinking that you know what others are saying without really listening to them. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like finishing somebody else's thought or finishing, right? You have to watch out for that. Watch out for that, that tendency where you need to be right, exposing truth without taking other people's viewpoint into account. You know, careless spontaneity, taking any kind of shortcut, taking yourself too seriously, right? Having a very ponderous approach to life. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being pensive, right? But lighten up a little bit, right? You want to watch out for your desire a lot of times to act on intuition, again, without checking the facts, resisting ideas that are very, very different from yours, prejudging a situation that you're involved in based on your past experiences. Really be very careful there, right? Where you can find yourself acting a certain way in relationship because A, B, and C happened in a past relationship, a past friendship, a past situation, right? So you want to just keep telling yourself that in this lifetime, for you, this is a people-oriented lifetime, leaving the hermit energy in the past, right? Saying to yourself that you can slow down and take your time and connect with other people, and that when you tune in to how other people think, you know exactly what to say. You'll have all the right words for the moment. When you're willing to listen and learn about other people, you win. And if you don't understand something, it's completely appropriate and okay to ask questions, just to ask questions, right? All right, my friend. So that is what I have for you. I hope this was helpful in some way. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Hi, guys. So if you have your North Node in the fourth house or Cancer, or your South Node in the 10th house or Capricorn, this part of the video is for you. Now, what you need to be aware of in your life is the need for control, where you say to yourself, if only I can get there, if only everybody else could get their lives together, then I could relax and be vulnerable, right? And that's based on your truth, right? But the reality is, you're never going to be able to control situations or other people enough to feel totally safe to be yourself. When you try to take charge of situations in other people's lives without being asked to be involved, you are inappropriately taking away their responsibilities. You're trying to take away their agency. Chances are you don't realize you're doing it. So there's no malice. We always have to have grace with ourselves when it comes to our nodes, right? But what you have to avoid here is this unending search for acknowledgement, right? So that's what that 10th house does. It makes us want to have this acknowledgement where you say to yourself, if only other people would recognize my contribution in a respectful way, and I feel seen by then I can feel good about myself, right? But it's a never-ending kind of thing because other people are never going to be able to fill that hole. They're never going to be able to give you enough recognition for you to feel completely like satisfied. It's only when you acknowledge within yourself the importance of the contributions that you make through nurturing other people. Remember, fourth house, nurturing that Cancer energy, nurturing other people in a very supportive way, that's when you're going to feel really fulfilled and really good about yourself, right? But the challenge here is that you never have enough, you feel like you never have enough authority to feel that it's safe to be vulnerable. And that's the bugaboo fourth house Cancer energy. At some point, you have to take a chance and let others know the truth of who you are and how you feel. Your insecurities, your rejections, your fears, your abandonment issues, you're feeling less than those, those nagging feelings of inadequacy. Because when you do that, and when you risk letting other people see who you really are in your core, you will ultimately gain this total safety that you're looking for, because it's by revealing your feelings and really allowing that vulnerability that you've ultimately ended up taking charge of yourself on a very deep level, right? It's when we try to avoid our own truth or avoid our our fears that can create a lot of instability. Now, I get that what you really, really want in this lifetime, just with this nodal axis, is absolute control of every area of your life all the time. And again, there's no malice in this. It's because, that fourth house energy and or Cancer energy, it's ruled by the moon, and the moon is very changeable and it's very emotional, and it's very difficult to feel like you have control. So it's you want to feel the control, right? You have this insatiable need to think that you have the power to succeed. And to attain that, though, You have to stay in touch with your feelings and your insecurities and share the truth about yourself to other people. It's so important. And I'm not saying that you have to live your life in a self-deprecating manner. It's not about that. It's just about being very open and honest about your feels and vulnerabilities, because it's by acknowledging your insecurities that's going to give you your stable base from which you create success in your outer world, right? And I say outer world because we're talking about really calling yourself out and acknowledging those inner challenges in order to find success in the outer world, because then you're no longer fighting yourself by trying to suppress your feelings and your fears and those vulnerabilities, right? And it's by embracing those energies where you find the calm, that inner certainty, right? And it's then you feel like, okay, now I could go after my goals. So by acknowledging your own emotions, you're going to develop, you automatically develop this awareness at the same time of other people's feelings. As long as you remain aware and supportive of other people, you will gain the support you require to help you on your path. But it's again, this is an axis. There's got to be a balance. Being very honest about your own fears, your own limitations, but also being able to be supportive of other people. Now, as far as like your natural gifts and things that you were probably quite good at, you do have this natural gift for being able to nurture and support people. So, because of that, any profession that gives you the opportunity to nurture people and nourish them, and that's so many different ones, right? Anything physically, mentally, emotionally makes you feel happy. So, good choices could be like literally nourishing them, dealing with anything in food, like restaurants, hotel, hospitality, anything having to do with home property, real estate, home repairs, working in the home, um, anything like that. And remember that midheaven placement, right, which is in most people's 10th house. I will say, look, caveat, you know your chart. Some people it might be in the ninth house, some people it might be in the 11th house. Um, if you live I work with a lot of people, past couple of years, not so much, but I've worked with a lot of people in Russia where their midheaven sometimes is in the 12th house. The midheaven is very connected to our career. Most people have it in the 10th house. I have mine in the 11th. Some people have it in the ninth, but most people have it in the 10th. So you want to understand that your midheaven is very impact. If you have your midheaven in the 10th house, that your nodal axis is very, very connected to your career. Okay, very connected. So, really use your instincts in, investments, and following your hunches and all of those things. You could do very, very well in selling or investing in property and real estate. That's a very nice energy for you. You also have a very like solid and accurate business sense. Great capacity for bargaining, negotiating, very good in that way. You're very instinctive, right? You have this very intuitive ability to know how to accomplish things, how to succeed in business. But when your profession involves only your business acumen, you're not very happy because it's too dry. It'll be too boring. You're going to be over it in a minute. Your profession should make use of your business instincts only as a drop to your nature, other than, in a very practical way. Do you know what I'm saying? Like maybe you flip houses or so because the thing here that's important to know, this is one of the placements, a couple of placements are like this. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean it's going to make you happy. You know what I'm saying? Because you're very good in business, you're very good at all of that, but that doesn't mean that that's going to make you happy. So you could be really good at it and have, investments, and you could consult. You can have your own business as long as the energy is always like a little bit different. Those are very good placements for you. But also anything where you're nurturing and you're helping people, right? So maybe this could be as simple as like a home health aide or an interior designer, um, any family therapy, right? Because of the fourth house energy, anything that's nurturing and cultivating in that particular arena, right? But with that 10th house connection, you're very good at business, right? So attributes for you to develop in this lifetime. Empathy. I'm not saying that you don't have any, but you want to develop it where it's a lot easier for you to access and notice and validate feelings, right? Yours as well as other people. Nurturing and supporting others, right? You really want to work on developing that in this lifetime. Humility, building your own foundation and security. Honest disclosure of your feelings and insecurities. And you don't have to have it on a megaphone, and you don't have to have a t-shirt made, just to your closest people, but most importantly, to yourself. And also accepting other people's failings and fluctuating moods without judgment and staying centered on your own feelings. You want to just really focus on developing those ideas. Whereas releasing, again, it's more about a balancing out, but lightening up on the need to control everything and everyone. Your compulsive need to take charge without fully understanding the situation. You have to be a little careful of that. Not really respecting and honoring the process, right? Being far too focused on the goal, right? Feeling completely responsible for absolutely everything, while also hiding your feelings and your fears in intimate relationships. Doing things just to gain the respect or admirations of others. You really need to not do that quite as much, right? Taking care of others' feelings and neglecting your own. Doing what's socially acceptable rather than what's totally honest for you. And thinking that things have to be difficult in order to be important. Sometimes the easy way is simply the right way, right? So, some mantras for you to sort of work with, maybe write them on your bathroom window, your bathroom mirror, is to just say, like, when you try to control everything, you lose. When you share your feelings, you win, right? It's okay to let your feelings show. It's okay to not manage everything all the time. No one anywhere ever can invalidate your feelings. No one can do that. If we're very strong in our convictions, right? Because I hear a lot of people say that, well, when my partner said that, he didn't validate me, or she made me feel invalidated. Okay, no one can invalidate your feelings. Your feelings are yours to own. No one has the power to come in and actually do that, right? They just don't. Now, what you might want to say is that you feel misunderstood, right? You're feeling misunderstood, but that doesn't invalidate your feelings whatsoever, right? No one can do that. And you want to be super mindful of that. Now, past lives, understanding what you came in here with. Lots of Cancer North Node people have had past incarnations in highly structured religious institutions, be it a monastery, a convent, anywhere where you participated in some sort of strict community-oriented religious environment where you were separated from the normal flow of family interactions. Again, this could be Cancer North Node or fourth house North Node energy. And because of those limited experiences with interdependence, dealing with other people's moods and acceptance of their own and other natural human urges, you may lack this ease of family relationships that's common to other nodal groups. Because in past lives, you were trained to repress your feelings. You were trained to repress your sexual urges, your instincts, your enjoyment of all the physical senses. So abstinence and discipline, that was where it was at. And deprivation, right, of all kinds, right, were necessary in order for you to feel respected or for you to move forward in your life, right? So in this lifetime, you do still tend to put a wall up between yourself and easy earthy interactions with others. Like connections with others can just feel really uncomfortable. And you're very accustomed to postponing the pleasures of life. And often that very postponement leads to this permanent denial of true joy in your life, right? Now you might have very high-end goals, right? for your life, and everything else is put on the back burner until that one thing that you really want in life is achieved, right? And that feeling of righteousness that's attached to that goal. And you can easily not allow yourself to be distracted by any kind of human temptation, right? It's like the person who like tunnel vision, like focuses right in that place. But the only problem here is that this goal is it's perpetual, it's endless. It's very subconscious too. And it's very connected to being able to achieve these almost spiritual heights that you set forth for yourself. But because the goal is insatiable, it is. So it's always going to be, the goalpost is always going to be moving, right? You end up constantly striving with no time for relationships or for really living, right? And maybe you go on vacation, do this and that, but the ultimate things that you really ultimately want to do. You know, I have a friend who um, he's very, very successful, and he married rather young and very structured, regimented life, but he threw all of his energy into his business. And um, I will just say that we could thank this individual for the fact that we have online banking. Okay. I'll just say that. Okay. So, very hard worker, but man, like he just denied everything. And it was just that. And then he arrived and he did this amazing thing. And then it wasn't enough. And then he went on to do another amazing thing. And like, that's not enough. Now, does he enjoy people and friends when he's hanging out, having dinner, whatever, dating? His marriage didn't work out. Um, but he's always, it's like this constant kind of searching. So, it's a very interesting placement. It's very interesting because, and the thing is, it's not your fault. Like you were trained to push it down. Don't feel, focus on this, but you yearn to belong and experience a sense of family with people that you love. But the exposure to that can feel kind of awkward to you, right? Because you've had so many lifetimes of this discipline training that you don't know how to do it. And you might even feel a little bit ashamed to let your feelings out, right? And your insensitivity to other people in this arena is a product of that ingrained insensitivity to your own feelings, right? But in this lifetime, repressing your feelings in the name of a higher purpose is so contrary to the direction that your soul needs to go for completion and fulfillment. You have been very well, highly respected in past lives. You've had prestige, you've had social prominence. You were likely some sort of like politician or, feudal lord or business person, or had a household, something like that. You functioned as the boss in one way or another, and you managed others and you took responsibility for behaving in a way that epitomized that idea of social correctedness. Owing to many incarnations of enjoying the spotlight, you are still looking for that audience. So, for that reason, my friends, respect is terribly important for you. And you tend to act from a motive of seeking respect from others. You likely make tremendous personal sacrifices, standing for principles that you believe at the expense of your own personal needs. And then you say, I'm still not getting the respect that I want. You're accustomed to being an authority, yet no one is following your directions and you can't quite figure it out. You become frustrated because you don't understand what's happening. And over time, if you're not careful, this energy can ultimately serve to harden your heart. So, being very open and honest about these ideas is really important for you to experience life in the way that's truly, truly fulfilling to you, for you. So, I hope this was helpful in some way. Thanks for hanging with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye. Hey guys, so if your North Node is in the fifth house or in Leo, or your South Node is in the 11th house or Aquarius, this part of the video is for you. So you're going to have a little bit of an extended one because there are a couple of extra things that I feel like this nodal axis needs to understand over the other ones. But let's get right into this. All right, let's talk about why you're here, right? What is the quest that you are on? right? And you are on a quest to create your own destiny, where you have to ultimately end up giving up what you believe to be your own personal dreams and work on developing self-discipline to build a very creative life. You are meant to build a creative life. When I say creative, I mean very Leo. Leo's very creative, monetizable talents, having your own business. Fifth house is also children. Um, it's also being able to show up in a more connected way in relationship. Right, so we're going to unpack it. But the thing that you do need to be aware of what having this placement is this overriding need to feel accepted. Excuse me, like this accepted by peers, accepted by 11th house energy. So it could be your peers, it could be your friends, just be general groups that you are involved with. Anybody like that? Where you say to yourself, if I just cooperate with life and I go with the flow, my friends will automatically support me. The people who I'm connected with will automatically bring me happiness. And we don't realize we're feeling this, right? And again, this is a lifelong transit. So you might have felt like this when you were younger and you no longer feel this. We do evolve, but be mindful that that never really goes away. And it does end up being this insatiable kind of situation because your friends at the end of the day are never going to be able to give you enough support for you to break out as an individual to try to take advantage of the exciting opportunities that life can bring. You need at some point to become your own best friend and really work on encouraging and pushing yourself to go after the things that will bring you success. So, not looking for anyone else to provide that success for you, not looking for anyone to be the ones to facilitate it for you, but genuinely being your own best friend and going after it. And what you need to avoid, though, is this unending search for knowledge at the end of the day, where you feel like if I know enough, I'm going to feel confident enough to take creative action. So let's just put this in practical terms, right? Like, I can't open my own business. I don't know enough about it. I can't start that, right? Because that 11th house energy is activated. That podcast, that YouTube channel, that vlog, whatever it is, you can think about it a lot in your mind, but when it comes to taking action, it's very, very difficult. Right? You're never going to feel like you have enough information to be successful in what it is that you want to go to, so that you can go for go with the flow. So what ends up happening is waiting for happiness to find you. At the end of the day, at some point, you have to take a risk and start creating your own happiness. And the ironic part here is that once you start proactively doing that and creating your own happiness, the knowledge that you need to succeed is going to come to you effortlessly. Like it's going to find you. All the information, all the experiences, the connections, the relationships, they will ultimately end up coming to you. Now, when it comes to what you really want in life, right? You really want to just receive love, right? With that fifth house energy is very connected to love and falling in love and romance. And you need to experience the loving energy of others. And that need that you have within yourself is nearly insatiable. And so to successfully bring that energy into your life, you need to first give love by cheering people up, being a positive beacon for other people, being there for other people. You know how to use the limelight to make other people happy. You know how to do that, right? And so you always want to be mindful of that other person. The reason I'm doing this is because I always do this when I talk about axes, right? Is that fifth house, 11th house axis, right? That Leo Aquarius is a very me versus we kind of energy. And in the process of giving happiness, as long as you stay in alignment with your own humanitarian ideals, you're going to gain the reward of knowing that you are a very important participant in some sort of larger stream of life situation that's going on, right? Feeling the connection to other people. Now, as far as the talents and like what you're good at, things to consider is you really belong in some sort of situation, some sort of career that rewards individual creative effort. And that's, we're talking about Leo energy here. So, of course, we go into entertainment, fifth house energy as well. Entertainment, be it singing, acting, entrepreneurship, or some other way of being at center stage, releasing your tremendous creative energy in a constructive way that ultimately brings joy to other people. Other good options include any sort of activities or dealings with children, speculation, games, sports, anything like that. Great with kids. You know how to do relationship. You will at some point have some sort of talent in your life that, and not many. It's not about how you, although you may be very good at a lot of things, you're not really going to care about a lot of the things that you're actually naturally good at. But at some point, there's going to be some sort of hobby that could certainly turn into a money generating situation for you as well. You also have a natural gift for objectivity where you can accurately see what the game is, like what is going on here. And when this skill is used as a backdrop for achieving goals, that is a lot of fun for you because your ability to see things objectively becomes fun and an asset. But if you're involved in something like any kind of situation where objectivity is the goal, right? Maybe like a scientist or somebody who invents things or some kind of like engineer or like an X-ray technician, something like this, your life can easily feel very empty, very devoid of happiness, very devoid of satisfaction. So you're much better off using this natural talent in intensely creative projects and whatever that means to you. I mean, you could make almost any arena be very creative. It's things you want to start really focusing on in this life, if you haven't already, is this idea of individuality and true commitment, willingness to be and take center stage and not allowing imposter syndrome to get in the way, analysis paralysis. You really want to lean into following your heart's desire, strengthening your willpower as well. Willpower can certainly be a little tricky for you. Having enthusiasm, having really powerful self-confidence and the willingness to take risks in life. Relating to the child and other people is also a beautiful element to develop. And just having a good time, looking at life as a game, and really leaning into developing an it's up to me attitude, right? Meaning like if I'm going to be happy, it's up to me. This understanding that it's never going to be met by anyone else or anything else, right? So some things you kind of want to let go of or leave behind or just not allow to have such a tight hold on you is detaching from emotional situations, giving into peer pressure just in order to belong, being aloof, waiting for other people to prompt you into action, right? Overlooking what's really going on, waiting for, I have to get more information. I need to know more before I do this. Very important point, though, guys. You have to really release the excessive daydreaming and running away from uncomfortable confrontations that might make you feel challenged in as far as your worth goes, right? So these are things to consider. Now, having to do with like where you've been. Now, we could say past lives, or we could just say your early environment. It doesn't really matter. But Leo North Node people or fifth house North Node people have spent lifetimes on the sidelines watching other people interact. So you guys were scientists and observers, and you were people who sacrificed your personal identity to promote some sort of humanitarian cause or ideal. You always felt like you had to put yourself in the back of the line, and you were accustomed to linking your creative energy to the dreams and aspirations of other people without taking into account your own needs and your own desires. So this can absolutely show up in relationships as well, where you can end up with partners who have some sort of big dreams that where you're almost living through them vicariously or trying to have your life needs met through the success of their dreams, right? But in past lives, right, you lost touch with that vital energy of your inner child. So because of that, in this lifetime, you have again subconsciously chosen environments that negate your inner child just in order to work through this issue, to regain connection with your vital energy. You may have been born into a really violent household where objective observation of a parent's behavior was a matter of survival. You know what I'm saying? Where like you have to read the room before you go in. Or maybe you were born into a household where one of your parents or both of your parents were active alcoholics, where the emotional responses of one or both were very unpredictable. And since you weren't able to truly trust your caretakers, the only safe way for you was to suppress your feelings. Or maybe the loss of a parent at an early age gave you an added sense of responsibility where you felt like it wasn't okay for you to just be a kid. Or maybe you had some sort of experience with your health at a very your early age where you had to be handled in a certain way, and that kind of truncated your ability to have a normal childhood. But you have so many past lives of being objective and watching from a scientific point of view that in this lifetime, you have a real fear of getting deeply involved. You're afraid of losing yourself, losing your objectivity. Subconsciously, you feel like it's the only thing that's kept you safe, going, and alive up, in the past up to this point. But in this lifetime, it's about becoming involved, learning how to play. You've taken this stuffy scientific approach for too many incarnations. You have not been fun on this planet, my friends. You haven't. Now, you know how to have a good time, like in the moment, but then it's like you pull yourself back. And do you even feel worthy of having that as a sustained kind of experience? So, this time around, you need to go in the direction of enjoying yourself. When you're around children, your own inner child is reflected back to you. When you see children playing and simply being themselves, it inspires you to play and become involved in life. And this is your challenge, right? To step back into the center of life's vitality. You know what's really interesting too about that placement is when you're around children, and all children are innocent, they truly are, and they are no less or more a product of their environment than you were at that very age. But you will really, because this is such an area of reflection, that you will see versions of your childhood and the childlike version of yourself in children, and you will even be able to call out the BS, right? Call it the bullshit in a kid who maybe acting a certain way, and you're like, oh, no, no, no. Like you're me. And I was like that when I was your age, and I see right through it. Where other people might be like, no, 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 they're just a kid and everything. And it's like, no, I see the manipulation going on. Do you know what I mean? Like you have a very good sense for that. All right. But aside from that, owing to your past very scientific orientation, when you came into this lifetime, like laboratory objectivity, do you know what I'm saying? Like no subjectivity at all, continually observing without seeking to change or in any way interfere with like the data. This is like part of your foundational self. And this allows you to be very, very clear and accurate having to do with what's going on in a situation. Even if you have a lot of very strong water placements, that may impact it to a particular degree, but you do have this ability to just see what's going on, you know? Now, on the other side, if you find that you're overly identifying with the role of the important observer, it can become an ego trip. So you do have to be careful of that, where you stand back and you pass judgment on other people just to feel superior. You have to watch out for that, where you're saying things about other people to right, it's almost like the classic bully energy in that way, though as we age, it morphs into looking like something else. But that has to just be noted within yourself. So you also may take the approach that, if we're gonna cut through the nonsense and let's just do this, right? Let's cut through the nonsense and tell it like it is. And then when you see the look on other people's faces, you feel bad, where you're like, well, I said it and I'll stand by it because I'm speaking the truth. And this is what I have to say and everybody is like, around you. And you can easily settle into the rigidity of your own position. So, you know, in this lifetime, you have the challenge of pointing out to others what's going on, but in a positive way that makes them laugh or it makes them help change their perspective in a way that ends up lightening them up, lightening their burdens. right? So being mindful, thinking before you speak, you need to not only see what's going on, but actively participate in changing what is into something positive for everyone involved, including yourself, right? So in this lifetime, your purpose is to learn how to get what you want, not through detachment, but through intense involvement, right? Through intense involvement, through a lot of negotiation, being able to recognize other people's situation, right? And you can sometimes feel like you're being swept up in other people's drama and that you're just sitting back powerless, even though you can clearly see the writing on the wall. Like I would say, that's like, that you have that story written already. You think that other people can adjust to your course of action, to what you think is right, change direction just like that, to get past some sort of situation. You often feel as if you watch the wind change and you're aware of the waves, but can't seem to hook up with the energy and take advantage of the situation to create the change. And that could be very, very frustrating, right? When you're dealing with other people. And you could certainly get stuck on one side of a creative pendulum, right? Now, to successfully manifest some sort of strong desire that you have, the process involves both observation and action. And sometimes it's needed for you to pull hard on the ropes to physically, maneuver the boat to regain the equilibrium as situations shift, you know. Yeah, the idea of being able to adapt to change, right? A lot of energy has to be exerted here. So accurate observation of forces that are in play already is equally important part of the creative process so that you know that you are expanding yourself and expending your energy and your creativity in the right direction at the right time. It's almost like reading the room. Again, you guys are very good at that, but reading the room, even when it comes to doing something that has to do with your career, being able to balance out the timing of something. You're very, very powerful on the observation end of things, but you have to remember to swing into action in order to create the changes in your physical life that you want. So the element of timing is very important. So a lot of you may be listening to this, and as a way of connecting with it, let me just give you this example. If you're not sure of what I'm saying, let's say that you wanted to open your own business and you have everything in your mind in play. You wait for the right time, collecting as much information as you can. What you may end up finding is that you get pushed out of absolutely nowhere to just into the hell with it. I have to do it now. Let me just do it and see how it goes, right? But there's even something very spiritual about that, being pushed to start something just literally like that. Um, but it's this idea you're very aware of the timing of this of situations, right? And understanding what it is that you bring to a situation versus the need for the situation. You're very sensitive to that. You're not a placement that you understand the changing of the tides. Do you know what I'm saying? You're very intuitive in that way. So you can start to vibe what's in, what's not in, what's the direct, and then you have to decide what you're comfortable with at that point. Okay, what I'm doing has changed in this direction. Am I still comfortable with that, or do I need to pivot in another direction? Hopefully that makes sense to you. You know, and a lot of thinking goes on here. A lot of thinking goes on here. And there's always this sort of, critical thinking versus creative thinking that's going on. And sometimes you could just think yourself to death, right? We analyze every picayune thing, thinking of all the things that can go wrong. You're checking the moods of everybody around you. You're trying to gain all the knowledge so that you won't make a mistake once you do decide to act or once you can act. But there are so many different things to think about that you can become overwhelmed and paralyzed and end up just abandoning a situation. And this tendency to seek security through knowledge, through certain knowledge, this can keep you from taking risks that could increase your vitality and the way that you enjoy life. And it often locks you into a very stagnant, very passive life. So in this lifetime, you're learning that you have to start trusting your intuition rather than just clinging to your logical strategies. And you need to be willing to consider that your basic premise might be a mistake. The way that you're thinking, you might be wrong. However, you very often assume that you possess superior knowledge, even though that knowledge could certainly block you from actually achieving the very thing that you want. You could stubbornly hold on to it and not wiggle at all, right? But where you're saying to yourself, in order for me to follow my heart and take a chance and create what I want, A, B, and C have to be met first. These things have to be in place, but they never are. They never are. So you have to let go of that idea that you need to be totally in control in order for success or even failure of your dream for that matter. Failures are okay. That's how we learn, you know? But truly, you are positioning. Why I think this is a very important positioning is that life is your partner. When you put aside your concerns and begin doing whatever you can in each moment, little by little, it doesn't even matter. It could be the silliest little thing. That's how you end up making those larger dreams come true, for lack of a better term. If you're not willing to do this and your right conditions are never met, you can easily postpone taking a risk until it's too late and the window of opportunity is just simply closed. You're learning how to transcend the limitation of that scientific mind, that scientific approach, and be truly creative. Now, creativity can't be planned or put on a schedule, and that is the truth. It's a process of working hand in hand with the intuition and the energy available in each moment with whatever is at hand. So it involves deciding where to go and then cooperating with the universe and its flow in order to get to where it is that has your objective sitting there. Now, the end result might not be exactly what was expected, but the energy of the expectation will be happily and very successfully manifested. So you have to accept what the universe brings you to make your dreams happen. So when you say to the universe, I want an answer on this, and every time the universe brings you an answer, your mind says, no, 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 that's not it. You end up invalidating your own answers by not acting on them. So you go in circles, you can feel estranged from your life force. And life force, I mean like your own agency, you know? So when this happens, it really is a sign for you to take action, right? You need to contribute to life in some way. Pick up the phone, call a friend, send somebody a gift, sign up for some sort of activity, get out there just to like kind of like jiggle the energy up, right? Get out and connect with people. Do things that challenge you emotionally, intellectually. You're going to feel good and it's going to help to break down that stagnation. It'll help your creativity, right? It will. It'll help that break down the analysis paralysis as well. Because daydreaming is a real thing for you, as I mentioned a little bit ago. You know, many times you likely lose yourself in daydreaming about the future. And this owing to the sadness you feel because you haven't created the life that you're seeking. You can daydream about everything, how it's going to be later, someone you're going to run into again, someone you know how it could be or it will be or it should have been, until one after another, dreams and dreams and dreams just fill your consciousness. But sending too much energy in that space of daydreaming, it just dilutes your creative energies, you know? You need to spend less time daydreaming and more time taking action, you know? In this lifetime, it works for you to decide, well, what would I like to create? What would be fun for me? Or you might get a boatload of different ideas, right? And your inner child might just say, oh, let me just do that one. Let me just cross that one off my list, whatever it is. The only problem is that you can sit back then at that point for years thinking about it and doing nothing. It creates a deep sadness within you, and then you waste years never realizing your dream. So the issue of manifesting dreams is a crucial one, obviously. And in this lifetime, you have the power to create that destiny. But it's up to you to first take charge of your life and do it. You have to choose one dream that deeply resonates for you, very deeply, and then step back into the outer world and say, what do I have to do in order to make that happen? And man, could that feel frustrating? Because there could be such a gap between your dream and the reality that it almost seems impossible to bring the two into alignment. Yet you have this really beautiful talent for manifesting in the material world, whatever it is that you dream about. But the first step is to recognize that participating in the game of creativity can itself just be fun and satisfying, even if it doesn't go anywhere. So you need to enjoy the process of creating that dream. and not postpone happiness until later. And I know you can get impatient with that. You could try to force them into reality. I totally get it, because a lot of times that divide seems so wide between where you are and where it is that you wish to be, that you can give up in almost a type of defeat and end up in a space of acceptance. But that's not going to be good for you or for your heart in the long run. It's just not. You have to show yourself. Let me slow down, allow the process, right? Because as you successfully check off each box, every step to bring you a little closer, you start to feel a lot more confident and a lot more likely and a lot more willing to take chances. Okay. You are an energy that is dependent on receiving love from other people. And when you risk sharing your feelings and your desires, you tend to give up if others don't immediately provide that validation. And you could even be like that in relationship, where if you're not feeling very validated in the relationship, you can quickly become silent. You may have put some energy in, some drama into your communication so that others understand what's important to you, right? You do a lot of time, you spend a lot of time doing that, expressing what's important to you. You must be firm in expressing your needs so that others take you seriously. And your motive should not just be getting your own way, but expressing the integrity of who you are so that your character and your ego can actually develop the necessary versions of themselves in that particular relationship. As your self-expression is the natural architect of the boundaries within you, right? So when you are not honestly and firmly expressing your true inner reactions to things, you inadvertently you don't mean to, you end up being unfair to other people. And then you're denying others the opportunity to really see you, who you are, interacting with the real you and meeting your needs. So you might put that facade on if you feel like it's safer to put that facade on if somebody's not going to meet your needs. But at the end of the day, you're not actually helping yourself. You're not. So all of that might sound a little tricky, but I do want to mention that you do have a great talent for stimulating enthusiasm and making other people feel really happy. Now you can apply this you can apply this in business and relationships, any sort of personal area. The key here for you using it, correctly is to be willing to participate, right? To become involved with others, to communicate with your heart as well as your head. When you become disappointed in a situation and withdraw, everyone loses, right? When you increase your interest and continue to put very constructive energy into a situation, this is good for everybody. This is really good for everyone. Now, you may feel if you've been hurt in friendships, you may feel, especially as you get older, you can really have a hard time in having to do with friendships. It's the way it is. First of all, you're very attuned to the emotions and the wills of people around you. You feel what others want. And the different directions of each person's will in a particular situation and what they're striving to create. So you could certainly vibe why somebody wants to be in a situation with you, why they want to be in a relationship, why they want to be in a friendship. You could smell a mile away if somebody is wanting to be a friend for some sort of business situation, or if somebody is wanting to be a friend because they don't have any other friends, or you know what I mean? Like all these different kinds of situations, you're very, very sensitive to it. And you've likely had some challenging scenarios go on in your life when it comes to friendships, friendships ending or needing to realize at some point in your life that you needed to handle friendships a lot differently. And that can make you a little gun shy to make very close friends in the same way later on, if that makes sense. Chances are these things, they end up imprinting on our energy. But a lot of times you will detach rather than participate in stuff. And this is something that you really need to get in front of. Now, you do tend to, no shock or everything that we've kind of been discussing up to this point, you do tend to have a bit of a challenge around the area of commitment. Now, the issue usually comes up when you allow yourself to become deeply involved in something, and I mean all commitment, right? Especially romantic relationships. So all of a sudden, somebody comes into your life who is so attractive, and I know that's very subjective, but whatever, right? For you, attractive, that you say, all right, I really like this person. I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to get involved, right? And you really want it. You really want to. And the energy of the romance is healthy for you. It stimulates your basic, vitality and makes you want to it makes you feel excited, makes you want to be, alive and fills you with joy and everything. So you go for it, right? And you get right in the middle of all of the emotional energies that are being lit up. Being very perceptive about what the other person wants, though, you go about playing the role of the other person's ideal mate. So you connected with the person. You talk, oh, I didn't have A, B, and C in my past relationship, says this partner. I always wanted somebody like ba, ba, ba. And suddenly you can morph into that very energy. You could charm the other person and say all the things that that person wants to hear. You can create a lot of happy romantic moments, there's no question. And the other person responds with love, affection, and there's this mutual joy, and things go great for a while. But then at some point, your partner starts to relax, be more assertive, exercise their own will, and you become irritated at this. You feel that if you're going to embody the ideal mate for your partner, that partner should do the same thing for you. And you can become very upset when your partner starts to be themselves. Often you may simply withdraw and drift on, never really making the commitment to create a relationship that feeds the energy back to both partners over the long haul. So your commitment needs to be on a deeper level, and not just when things are going well. It isn't fair to the other person who responds to your advances and becomes open and vulnerable, only to have their heart broken when you change your mind and you leave by detaching either emotionally or physically. And since you don't have a strong sense of fairness, because you don't, because of this axis, you have to be willing to monitor the relationship carefully and really use your creative power to make it work. So a lot of times you can almost feel like you're needing to handle relationship. Now, your challenge here is to interweave the strong picture of the situation you would like to create and the creative will of the other people in your life in general. And the first step in doing this is to find out who the other person really is, right? Really is. What are the other person's ideals and dreams and goals? What's important to them to create that experience in this lifetime? Also, where is that person willing to yield to accommodate to the individual needs that you have? It's got to be both ways. These things need to be talked about early on to ascertain whether your personalities are going to be able to blend. Because this is the thing. This axis cares deeply about friendship in relationship. Long-term relationships, successful relationships, should not be jumped into. You probably had the experience once or twice where you did that and it didn't go well. So these things have to be figured out before taking that deeper plunge. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. Okay. Having common goals, common values, very important, especially on the macro things, the macro things. And you need to recognize that, that the life and the energy of the romance is not always found between two people with identical ideals, wants, and needs. In fact, often, the fire, right, that you're really looking for in a relationship is created by two temperaments that in some way are very dissimilar. And it's through the process of encouraging individuality that the relationship becomes stronger. They don't have to be exactly like you, but there has to be that general reciprocity. Now a lot of the problems that go on here, right, with you, having to do with your willingness to take responsibility, has to do with trust. You likely violate other people's trust without meaning to, or recognizing when you have done it. You might even make excuses. And this is why other people sometimes react pretty profoundly against you, right? Maybe even violently, or maybe they're like yelling or something. If you can see the child in other people, you'll recognize that everyone operates from a certain level of trust that others are going to keep their word. And you can't discount or violate this trust without experiencing severe repercussions. Once you give your word, you must keep it. Right? As you would like with a child, right? Hopefully you do that with children, just to reinforce the trust that others give you. If you change your plans, you must let those who are counting on you know in advance when it's happening and not just go your own way, do your own thing. Because what will happen with this energy is you will inadvertently end up getting that given right back to you at some point in your life. So you just need to be aware of the game, right? That you have given other people the impression of playing, and know what the rules are. So once you've agreed to the rules, let others believe that you have agreed to the rules. You need to take responsibility and play by those rules. For example, if you're involved in a relationship and one of the rules is monogamy, and you have to be monogamous, right? You can't just go with the flow and let momentary distractions take you in some other direction. You must be true to your word and create what you say, right? You have to create what you say you're going to create. Since you have learned about detachment in past lives, you may not recognize how attached others are to you. In fact, you may even struggle with really understanding how much you genuinely mean to people. That might be hard for you because of this placement. So when you act carelessly and others act vehemently, you might be like, man, dude, what's the matter? Why are you acting like that? Because you're learning to recognize that those in other nodal groups often take life much more personally than you do. It's a very interesting thing. So you want to just avoid, in that same line, you want to avoid getting stuck on what you think you know. You take in a few objective facts and then you reach a conclusion based on your perception of the situation, your goal, and your needs. And a lot of the times you become rigidly attached to your position, refusing to budge. And then you begin to plan for the future based on your decision, which you consider to be an objective, irrevocable truth. But the problem with that is that you tend to reach your conclusions and certain knowledge without discussing it with anybody else involved. You have to be willing to share your feelings, willing to open yourself up, right, to other people. You don't like to fight. I will tell you that. I mean, regardless of what we're saying here, you're not somebody who's like loves to fight. Now, you are a pro at provoking fights when it comes to getting into the trenches and hashing out some sort of emotionally charged situation, especially if it's something that you feel on a soul level just has to be addressed. But your tendency is actually to withdraw. So you either sit in silence, tuning out the other person, which can make the other person mad, or you leave the situation to avoid dealing with it, right? So you could be like an ostrich sticking your head in the sand, right? You can have an easier time than other nodal placements ghosting situations. If you'd ever had to deal with it again, you'd be perfectly happy with that. So in other words, you wouldn't struggle very much with like guilt for more than a hot minute. Unless, of course, you have Saturn retrograde somewhere, but I don't want to get into like pulling the other energies in. But, if Saturn retrograde is involved there, maybe you will. But generally speaking, no, and that pulling away and that willingness to just go radio silent or again, just like lack of participation in one way or another can often break the hearts of those who want to love you. And when you pull out of a situation, you become inaccessible. Then, when you think the emotional intensity has diminished, you return and act like nothing happened. And the problem is that you begin to accumulate a bad history with people around you. And the unresolved problems build up, and eventually your partners withdraw emotionally or physically from the relationship because of the unresolved tension. Others may think that you don't care about them because of your lack of generosity in responding to their needs. This is like the quintessential placement for like being in a relationship, having a really big fight, saying really horrible things, ending it, going and doing your own thing, letting a couple of weeks, maybe a month or two go by, and then returning like nothing happened. Like nothing happened. And just wanting everything to kind of just be okay again and not wanting to hear that they don't trust you and all of those things, right? So we all have to have a little bit of self-awareness here. But sometimes this occurs, though. I mean, it's again, we all have to have grace for ourselves here. A lot of times this can happen because of your ideals of how a relationship ought to be, without any drama, nothing to discuss, no issues to resolve. Relationships shouldn't have any problems. And you fail to recognize that a crisis can actually be a focal point that draws two people closer in an intimate bond of understanding and empathy. So a willingness to help another person through upsets and frustrations can result in depth of mutual appreciation, open giving, profound loyalty that could not otherwise have been gotten. So, the alchemical process occurs obviously when two people make a commitment and share in the process of giving and receiving on a deeper level. But you have to be willing to create something positive of what may at first seem to be a negative situation. If you take the energy you put into withdrawing and being miserable and putting it into becoming involved in creating happiness, it becomes a win for everyone. Absolutely everyone. Okay. Um, yeah. So understand that detachment, and understand that detachment comes from an innate sense of fairness. So there's no malice involved. It's just like, a relationship shouldn't be like this. In a relationship, the person should be this, this, and this, and I should be this, this, and this is what it, looks like. And you can especially be like this if you came from a home where there was a lot of arguing, and you didn't get to see the resolution. You just saw the arguing. There was no resolution, and there was no talk about the resolution, where it was like fight, 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 and then suddenly mom and dad, or grandma and grandpa, whomever, they're acting like, yeah, everything's fine. It's like that and then that. And so that process of how they got from lots of arguing to like everything seems to be all right in a child's mind, you are completely absent. That being able to experience the bridge between those two things was never shown to you, right? And so you can naturally, you bring that into relationship, because it's either this way or that way. It's fair or not fair, you know? So these are things that, just to be mindful of. You really, in this lifetime, you're learning to look out for yourself. And if you are in a situation that is not fair, it's important to let other people know how it is that you're feeling, rather than acting out in any of those other ways. So I hope this helped you understand yourself a little bit more. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Hi guys, so if your North Node is in the 6th house or Virgo, or your South Node is in the 12th house or Pisces, this part of the video is for you. So your thing, your Achilles heel, is victim consciousness, where you say to yourself, if I don't have constant, compassionate attention and understanding from other people, someone's going to take advantage of me. But it's an endless kind of cycle here. Others can never give you enough reassurance to overcome your inner sense of helplessness and, dare I say, paranoia. Only when you look within, really deep inside of yourself, will you be able to discover what kind of outer structures you need to create in your life in order to give you the strength and purpose that you need, just in general, whether it's having to do with your health, relationships, whatever it is. The trap that you have to avoid is this unending search for a savior or mentor who you can trust blindly, to whom you can surrender, where, and calling out this feeling where you may say to yourself, if only I can surrender enough, God will put things in order. But life has shown you that inward surrender will not make the external world orderly and productive for you. The only way you can achieve your goals is to organize your life in the way you need it to be, so that you will feel safe and strong. So here, at the end of the day, you'll never feel like you have enough confidence to go out into the world and do something productive. At some point, you simply just have to begin actively participating in life. And the ironic part of this is that when you begin to proactively participate and learn, right, learn life, this leads you to successful results. You will gain the confidence that you are seeking. It's very clear with this this axis, this nodal axis, what you really want is to be lost in the security blanket of your own personal connections and relationships with the universe. You just sort of crave that connection. You want to just let go into something larger than yourself that'll support you and give you that expanded sense of identity. You have this very insatiable need to experience peace and oneness, but to successfully attain that, you have to go out into the world and be of service to other people. As you shift your attention from your own fears and focus instead on the here and now, you can easily see how to restore situations of chaos in your life, right? Just chaos. Now, let's talk about some things that you're good at, maybe even some professions that you might be a little more acclimated towards. You'd make a great doctor, guys, dentist, nurse, nurse's aide, right? Because of that Pisces 12th house energy, that's the house of the nurse, because those professions give you the opportunity to use healing energies while also being of service in practical ways. So it's not the only one, right? Also a psychologist, a healer, dietitian, accountant, organizer, Reiki master, tarot card reader. Not really astrology. Astrology is more 8th house Scorpio, but the other occult arts are in there. Anything having to do with like crystals. Those are all, any kind of craft person as well, all good choices. You have good karma on the job, right? You definitely get along well with coworkers and employees. You can accomplish a task in 1 hour that might take another person 5. So you should be in a situation where getting the job done is honored rather than simply working for like an hourly wage, right? And another reason the healing professions are awesome for you guys is that these jobs do tend to deal with like the physical nuts and bolts of life, right? The very practical part. So in fields where success is so dependent on paying attention to particular detail, you're forced to stay in the present. For you, the process of physically creating order relieves like psychological stress, so you may like to have things in order, right? You also have a lot of compassion and a capacity to remain aware of the larger picture of a situation, right? It's very much that 6th house Virgo kind of thing, right? These past life gifts of spiritual awareness are an asset when you actively participate in creating tangible results. But professions where the goal is attainment of spiritual consciousness and forgiveness, you can feel very undermined in your ability to feel strong and secure. So it's just something to keep in mind, to help people on their journey, but not to be the end point, right? If somebody is, like, let's say you're a psychologist, or even if you're a tarot reader, somebody wants you to give them the answers. Whereas really what you're supposed to be doing is helping them unpack what's happening. And if they get frustrated that they're not getting the exact answer from you, that can make you feel very insecure and not very strong. And that actually does not mean that you're not excellent at your craft or whatever it is that you're doing. It just means that you're very sensitive to those kinds of energies. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, when it comes to past life energy, if you're not into past life, maybe just a lot of people don't believe in past life, maybe just your experience early in your life. There is this innate awareness within you of the spiritual dimension of life, and you're very attuned to the higher, much lovelier realms, right, of your own nature. You are extremely sensitive. You're easily wounded, and you're very careful to avoid causing pain to others because of what you've experienced in your life. This is very connected to your personality. In fact, you're sometimes more aware of and concerned about other people's suffering than your own. And you have to be careful of this sponge-like energy here, because you can easily take in people's energy. So for you, it's so terribly important that you understand how to create boundaries. But that spiritual dimension and being like you're very connected. So past lives, you could have been somebody who was absolutely in the healing arts, but in the same way, keep in mind that that's the part of the chart that deals with the victim and victim mentality, but also literally being victimized, right? So you also could have been, victimized in a way where spirituality is what actually saved you. This is much of this situation that can happen here as well. So, some things that you should say to help quell your spirit, right? To help affirm. You could say that, you're the only person who could put your situation in order. So you might as well do it. No one else is coming in to save you. This is not a victim mentality or a victim lifetime. It's not what this is. You have to understand that when you withdraw, you lose. When you participate in creative positive results, you win. When you focus on a plan, the whole universe opens up a pathway to success. So you really want to lean into developing more of an affinity towards participation, bringing order to chaos, creating routines for yourself, focusing on the moment and the here and now, acting on feelings of compassion, being of service to others. Certainly you can do that. Analyzing and categorizing. You think about that. That's boundaries. Analyzing and categorizing what's right, what's not right. Where are the boundaries? Where are they not? Gaining self-confidence through experience. Doing things with moderation. Taking risks in spite of fears, noticing and valuing details. I do want to say that out of all the nodal axis as well, this would indicate a past life or a very early experience as somebody who struggles very strongly with addiction as well. So in this lifetime, the idea of moderation and really developing that attribute, whereas the tendencies to kind of leave in the past here is this victim consciousness or being a victim, you know, um, feeling confused, disoriented, avoiding the planning of anything, any sort of addictive tendencies, escapism, whether it's drugs, alcohol, excessive sleep, daydreaming, whatever it is that's not serving you, any kind of extremism, oversensitivity, and self-doubt, any feeling of inadequacy, withdrawal, vagueness, not wanting to commit, the idea of inaction, giving up on things. These are things that you really do need to leave in your past because they have no value added space in your life right now, right? So hopefully that was helpful. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. So if your north node is in the 7th house or in the sign of Libra, and your south node is in the 1st house or in the sign of Aries, this is for you. So what do we need to be careful of here with this placement? Well, the first thing we need to be careful of is selfishness, where you feel like your survival depends on looking out for yourself, and others should make sure that your needs are met regardless of anyone else's concerns. That's just a natural default. And before I go any further, guys, we have to give ourselves some grace when we're learning about our nodes, right? Because a lot of this is deep, a lot of it is from our childhood, a lot of it is from past lives, right? That energy that, other people have to be looking out, that you have to look out for yourself and other people should make sure that your needs are met. That is a bottomless pit because if you feel that others have to constantly fill your needs for you to feel safe and connected, you will find that you're always needing more attention and energy just to feel okay. So you need to find partners whom you can give to, who will feel so energized that they naturally fill your cup in appreciation. So the satisfaction here lies in connecting with people who see you for who you really are, appreciate you, and then want to give you back. But the trap that you have to stay away from is this unending search for independence at the same time, right? Going back to that selfishness idea, where you say to yourself, if I can just be self-sufficient enough, I'll have confidence to relate successfully with others, and I won't feel lonely because I won't really need anybody. Right? It's a very complex positioning. As a life has shown you that accomplishments and independence do not make you feel complete. So in the end, right, you're never going to feel a strong enough sense of support to become part of a team as long as you're looking out. So at some point, you need to take the risk of losing yourself in supporting another person. And like every single nodal axis has this slice of irony. And for you guys, it's that once you start unselfishly supporting someone else, you begin to feel the joy and the deep happiness of your true self shining through. Now, it's with this particular placement, what you really, really want is to be your own person, is to have your own agency, is to be the center of attention, to discover yourself in different situations in life and surround yourself with people who feed your energy. We want to experience, you want to do, which is great. In order to make this happen, though, you do need to refocus your attention away from yourself and discover the nature of the people who have been drawn to you. No accidents here. Everybody's being drawn to you in a particular way because this is the axis of mirrors. So the people who you're drawing to you, those people reflect something about yourself that you need to either learn to appreciate or you have to figure out that you need to address. And once you discern which people truly are on your team and want to support you, and once you begin to feed those people energy, that energy comes back to you, and that's going to give you the situation that you want. I hope that makes sense. Now, you guys do have some warrior attributes with that, that Mars activating first house Aries energy, right? Lifetimes of personal achievement, self-sufficiency, and independent action result in this lifetime a consciousness that is unaware of team effort and partnership. You have had too many incarnations enacting as a warrior. And a warrior on the battlefield isn't concerned about anyone else, only with staying alive and killing the enemy. That's it. If that person even glances at a comrade, they can be destroyed. So the entire consciousness is geared towards self, right? Her body or his body, her fighting ability or his fighting ability, her position relative to survival, his position relative to survival. You now have an exaggerated survival urge, this me versus you mentality. It's all you know. You're competitive, you're goal-oriented, you're tactical, always aware of how you will be affected by what you do or by what's going on. You yearn to be with others, to love others and feel loved, but you don't know really how to do that. You're not sure. You're afraid. You're afraid to release the strong grip on your sense of self because you feel the battle may begin at any time and you must be strong and on guard to survive. So constantly guarded. But you need to recognize that this lifetime is not a warrior lifetime. No one is out there to destroy you or take things away from you. They're just not. You need to notice that there are comrades on all sides. Your job in this lifetime is to help others win battles, and in helping others, you win as well. So throughout all of those warrior lifetimes, you lost touch with love. You acclimated to your environment with the ability to work with other people. Gone. So because of that, you came into this lifetime feeling awkward about cooperation and relating to others. It's not comfortable. But you shouldn't worry because your entire chart is set up to reconnect with people. As long as you're clear about where you're going, old habits will not get in your way. I promise you that. In fact, this entire lifetime is about partnership for you. And there will be no lack of opportunity to get it straight because opportunities for marriage and partnership will come to you. It could come to you quite easily, in fact. So to really kind of drive down, to drive out rather, and be able to manifest the more positive elements of this, you want to say to yourself, okay, when I focus on supporting others, I feel confident. When I successfully stimulate self-confidence in other people, we both win. When the team wins, I win. When I share with others, I have more. You want to be very mindful and catch yourself when you start to feel like you're acting in a way that's impulsive, any sort of thoughtless self-assertion, not bothering to pay attention to others' needs for support, self-centeredness, selfishness, having a lack of good judgment regarding money, expecting others to be like you, indifference to how you are seen by other people, resistance to compromise, having any kind of outbursts of anger, and over concern for survival. So instead, you want to really focus on cooperation and diplomacy and tact, and increasing awareness of other people's needs and acting in a very selfless way where you're giving support without expecting the reciprocity, creating win-win situations and sharing and seeing things through other people's eyes and communicating self-identity, communicating who you are to other people and not being afraid to do that. All right, my friends. So I hope that was helpful in some way. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Hi, guys. So if your North Node is in the 8th house or in Scorpio, and your South Node is in the 2nd house or in Taurus, this part of the video is for you. So what is the thing that gets you in life? That Achilles heel, it's comfort. Your goal in life is to be comfortable. You want a lot of possessions in order to survive. And the thing is, that can lead you into this trap of an unending search for accumulation, where you could say to yourself, even if it's subconsciously, when I finally have enough money and possessions, I'm going to feel good about myself. And then I could relate to other people and feel engaged in life, right? And that thinking can tend to lead to stagnation on many levels. It could lead to stagnation materially, physically, mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually. Now, life experience, excuse me, has shown you that you never get enough stuff to feel comfortable in making the changes that will add the joy and the vitality to your life. Excuse me, that you're really looking for. Let me just take a sip of water. So you need to be willing to take the risk of losing your current level of comfort to gain a higher level of power and vitality, right? Meaning having complete agency over your life. Because at the end of the day, you'll never have enough money and personal property to think that you can afford to bond truly with another and feel that there is enough to take care of all of your needs. At some point, you simply have to let go of the concern, that self-concern, and put full power into partnership. And the irony here, and there is a piece of irony with every single nodal axis, the irony for you is that when you finally bond with another, the mutually empowering relationship can actually make you rich, sometimes financially, yes, literally, maybe with property, but certainly with connections. Right. So it's about like releasing the stronghold on through that one lens, right? And allowing that mutual empowering here is what you really want. You really want, and there's no shame in this, guys. It happens to be your nodal axis, and this is what we're talking about. What you really want is money. You want to accumulate financial resources and material possessions to gain a sense of comfort and stability so that you feel that you can truly begin to really live. And to achieve this, you need to be willing to form partnerships with others, finding those who have similar values and resources, whether it's money or talent, whatever, but that they're willing to share and can share. If you use your talents to enhance your partner's energy, truly linking with the other as a team, rather than maintaining a sense of separation, meaning like, this is my money, your money, my resources, that kind of, that result can be great financial rewards for both of you if you're not in that space. Some people are just like that. So if you know you're in a relationship with somebody like that, man, is that going to bother you? It's going to be really difficult to not let that bother you, right? You're an energy where it's like, okay, when we get married, it's our money. When we get married, these are our children, right? This is our house. These are our possessions, right? Now, with the contractual understanding that you will receive a percentage of the profits, you are free to focus on enhancing your partner's energy and power in ways that they feel will ultimately end up increasing the success of the two of you as a team. Now, this goes for romantic partnerships or any kind of entrepreneurial endeavor as well. So in terms of financial arrangements, you're better off asking your partner what would be fair, because a partner will appreciate you more than you value yourself. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, what do they think is fair? Do you know what I mean? It's like, uh, it's just so funny because as the mother of twins, my brother-in-law, Raymond, he has twins. A lot of you know his show, Everybody Loves Raymond. And in real life, he really does have twins. And he taught me years ago that when it comes to the whole like twin thing, there's always going to be one that undervalues themselves a little bit. There's always going to be one. Even so he said, whenever you're talking about splitting something, come up, tell them you split, I pick. So one person will split it and then the other person gets to pick, right? So they're both being able to exercise what they consider to be fair, right? And that would be a good strategy for you, right? Have a partner say, when it comes to like shared money, shared resources, shared any, well, we're speaking very practically right now, okay? Ask them what they think is fair and then start the conversation from that point, because you may have a hard time being able to appropriately evaluate what's right for you to receive in a situation. You may undervalue yourself or overvalue, right? So have a partner, right? Do that. Say, we're in this together, but so like, what do you think is fair about having to do with how our responsibilities are spliced out, percentages, if it's, pertaining to finances, having the conversation. Don't not have the conversation because this will absolutely simmer inside of you. Now, this axis does come with its own talents. Of course, you'd make a great editor since you have the ability to seriously delve into the minds of others and discern intentions and bring material to light in a certain way. You have a talent for empowering the projects and businesses of other people. And when you do so, the other people tend to generously reward you. You're very good with other people's stuff. This can be especially true when working with other people's money, as in banking, insurance, investments, anything like that. You can also excel as a psychologist since it's in the process of helping others change. You also change. Great as a private investigator or in other lines of work that involve delving into secrets to uncover or to even restore things. And dare I say, an astrologer as well. Make a great astrologer. This is the space of astrology. And you have innate gifts of uh, practicing thoroughness and determination, which can bring lasting results. And when you use these past life gifts, I mean, and they are there as a means for creating stability in crisis situations, your dependability creates an environment that feels comfortable and safe for everyone involved. However, if you involve yourself in a profession that the status quo, that are very status quo oriented, I mean, no bueno there, right? At all. That, require like the maintenance without growth, that's complete stagnation for you. Because remember, what happens in that house, it's all about change and transformation, change and transformation. So you're going to feel very bogged down and very like, can't even do this anymore if you don't have that constant change. So you're much better off in a profession that is crisis oriented or involved in constant change and growth, as because this ultimately ends up bringing excitement and a lot of potential for personal evolution. And the reality is, guys, if you end up in a profession where like everything's about maintaining stagnation, you will end up doing something to get yourself fired. If you don't have the nerve to quit something, this is just what will happen, right? But at the end of the day, you did come into this life with very rigid past ideas about what you have to do to feel good about yourself. And man, is it a heavy burden on you. You know what I'm saying? There's a heaviness that you brought into this life, right? Like most babies were born naked, but you weren't. You were born wearing 10 shirts, 15 sweatshirts, a bunch of pairs of pants, 12 overcoats. Right? You brought all of your past life issues, burdens, all of that with you. And this makes walking through this life a lot more difficult than it actually needs to be. So your primary challenge in this lifetime is to just let go. Otherwise, too many material possessions, unreasonable attachments to past life values, the way that things ought to be, and the reluctance to relate with others can easily create a real situation of stagnation for you. So you need to be open to life's energies and listen to other people. So when someone says, look, That overcoat isn't attractive. It would be much better for you to take it off and just wear the one that's underneath. Your first instinct is likely to hold on to what you've got, right? There is this resistance to like let go of what it is that you consider to be like your original formation, right? But if you listen and discard the stuff from the past that you really don't need, you're going to feel a lot lighter. If you look at a value and, that your energy starts going down. You can't equate like value, right? It's too strict. It's too rigid that way. It's too rigid, right? For example, if you hold a value requiring that every morning when you get up, you light a candle and you touch each corner of your bedroom before starting your day, the ritual can bog you down. Your past life ideas of how things should be may keep you stuck in that space, but you're learning to recognize that these values are no longer accurate and are actually draining your energy. So you could do two things to help yourself let go of this. First, you need to seriously reevaluate the values and ideals that are holding you back. Values regarding work, religion, relationships, self-worth, your ethics, creativity, family goals, and on and on and on about what people have to do in order to be okay, you know? And when you think, I need to do this to be okay, if you feel a sense of heaviness around it, you need to know that you can release that idea and feel so much lighter as a result. Second, you need to become more interested in other people's values. You need to truly listen to what others think is important, since other people can offer so much valuable insight and perspective that energizes you and lightens up and instills more joy in your life, in your day-to-day. You'll feel more lighter. Not focusing so much on yourself, but other people. So things you want to lean into and things you want to really work on developing in your life is self-discipline and choosing constructive change, releasing whatever causes stagnation and low energy, and eliminating non-useful possessions. Guys, I'm putting an exclamation on the end of that one, an exclamation point. Get rid of stuff that you no longer need. And I mean it. Having to do with tchotchke nonsense around your office, things around your house. If you haven't worn that piece of clothing in 6 months, get rid of it. You are so sensitive to the energy from the past. Also in a good way, though. So if you have a beautiful keepsake from a grandparent or an ancestor who's passed away, and you have so much positive energy connected with that person, make sure that that thing is kept out in sight, that it's not hidden away collecting dust. Have it out, have it be part of your everyday. It's really going to help your energy in that way. You want to enjoy things without having to own them. Accepting support from others, ideas, monies, opportunity. Enjoy high-risk situations that make you feel alive. Awareness of others' psychology, meaning their desires, their wants, needs, motives, what matters to them. Openness, true openness to partnering, supporting, and merging with others. And you want to just let go this idea of tunnel vision, this attachment to comfort and the status quo, possessiveness, over concern with accumulation and ownership, questioning past decisions. Let it go. Let it go. Toothpaste is out of the tube. You can't put it back in. Really staring down and lightening up on the stubbornness, getting bogged down with sensual appetites, be it sexual, alcohol, food, anything like that. Repeatedly doing things one way, the hard way, even though there's an easier way. Resistance to change, resistance to others' input. These things need to be let go. So I hope that was helpful for you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Hi guys, so if your North Node is in the 9th house or Sagittarius, and your South Node is in the 3rd house or Gemini, this part of the video is for you. Here, your Achilles heel is mental security, where you're thinking if only you could figure out what other people are thinking, then saying the right thing so that they'll agree with your ideas will be what's needed to make you feel secure. You have to be careful here because this can lead you into a trap of an unending search for information. feeling like if you just get enough facts, if you find the truth, then you're going to know what to do. But you can never read people's minds well enough to assure yourself that you will say the right thing, that you need to let go of control and pay attention to your own intuition. This trusting and acting from your own truth brings out your integrity, which will attract the right people to you to help you gain the security and peace of mind that you really seek. You need to understand that you'll never have enough information to know what the truth actually is. At some point or another, you simply have to go beyond logic to your intuition and demonstrate what your higher truth is telling you. Because when you have faith in your own truth, in the higher truth and spiritual guidance, you're also going to gain a correct perception of what's really going on around you, right? Living in the truth of reality is not what's easiest. But it's crucial for you to walk that path, right? That you're meant to be on. Really being in reality and not what you think, in your mind, right? You want to really feel connected with others while confidently being yourself. You want total agreement of everyone around you, for everyone to understand your point of view, to accept and support you, and to recognize your positive motivations, right? In order to achieve this, you may easily try to manipulate people into thinking your way. Using your talent for understanding others, you likely think that you can say exactly the right words to make other people change their minds and agree with you, but it doesn't always work. And in order to reach your goals, you need to refocus your attention on your own truth. Because when you speak the words you intuitively feel, situations in which you find yourself in will be so much more harmonious than if you were to not do this. Right? When you live and speak from a higher self, people who are really not in alignment with you will fall away and new people will appear who are far more compatible. So this is so much, and I will say, like, this placement a lot of times, just I'm talking about just anything connected to Sagittarius, that Jupiter ninth house energy. It's the placement of the wise one. It's the place of the philosopher. It's the place of, no, I don't need to understand how to do it differently. I know better than you. I know better than most people. The reality is sometimes you do. You know what I'm saying? Especially with this nodal axis. You might. So whereas if the nodal axis were flipped, that axis is a little different, where there's got to really be this understanding, like, you got to open yourself. There's a need to open oneself up to other perspectives. Here, you have to make sure that the people that you're dealing with are actually in alignment with you. This is not about you digging your heels in and be like, this is my truth. It's about not allowing yourself to sacrifice your higher truth. And you want to make sure that you're staying connected to people who are similar to you, similarly attuned, innately, so that they innately understand and they share your spiritual values, your values about worldview, your politics, your higher ideals, your higher ideals. Now, with this particular axis, you are, when it comes to like talents and profession, you are highly intuitive. You definitely excel in psychic fields, channeling and reading for others from your intuitive awareness. You can also be very successful in situations involving interactions with foreign countries, importing, exporting, foreign relations, anything having to do with travel. You are happiest as well as most financially successful when you use your talents to find solutions. So that could mean a lot of things. So it could mean like lawyer, law enforcement, religious or spiritual leader, a professor, a publisher, a role in advertising, any way that you can be involved in distributing ideas on a mass level or promoting a cause that you believe in. You could be very good in marketing and advertising, publishing. I don't know if I said that already. Getting something out there to the world, right? You can be very good at that. You also have a natural, very inherent gift for understanding the mindsets of others, which makes you very good in those professions. But the thing is here, you often foresee probable outcomes, right? You and the Virgo node, you guys, the Virgo Pisces node, you guys are very good at being able to read the writing on the wall. When you verbalize the truths you see through your intuitive process, your natural communication skills create a win-win situation for everybody. But the thing is here, if you work in a profession where understanding and reporting how others think is the goal, like just reporting how others think is if that's the goal, you may not do so well. Teaching mundane subjects or writing projects that deal with facts rather than inspiration can promote your uneasiness and fears about being hurt unexpectedly. So you're much better off when you use these innate writing and speaking abilities as a means of communicating and implementing, some sort of higher truth, if that makes sense. Okay. You guys have spent many past lives. If you don't believe in past lives, this could also be indicative of the energy from your early childhood. But you are in positions where it was essential for you to understand how others think. As a teacher, as a writer, as an orator, as a salesperson, teachers aren't successful unless they understand their students' thought process and impart information in the way that the student can accept it, right? So you're very good with this, right? So you came into this life with the talent of seeing everyone else's point of view, but in the process, you have lost touch with your own truth. So now you need to connect with your spirituality and rediscover yourself. The gift of understanding also means that you can talk to anyone about anything. You have the gift of the gab. Absolutely. You could see into the mindset of the other person and keep small talk going for hours, making the other person feel comfortable through easy exchange, a friendly conversation, and acceptance. But you're so aware of the mindset of other people that you often tend to over-translate other people's ideas. You think you need to speak the other person's words to be understood. And soon you get lost and forget what you really wanted to say. And then when you get something from your intuition, you should say directly without trying to edit it or translate it. It's really important. There can be some indecisiveness. You have a really tough go making decisions. You're accustomed to seeing both sides. So even when you know what to do, you also see that alternative viewpoint. It can confuse you. So, for example, you could ask yourself, should I go to the party or stay home and rest, right? You have this an instinctive knowing or feeling that tells you which choice would make you happy. But then you question your knowing. Yes, it would make me happy to stay home and I need to rest. But if I don't go to the party, maybe I'll miss something. On the other hand, I really need to rest. I've been out 3 nights in a row, and yet this party may be attended by some very interesting people, and on it goes. And pretty soon you can't make a decision. So to avoid this problem, you have to not allow yourself to question your first feeling of knowing. Your intuition is almost 100% accurate. You are learning to recognize it, rely on it, and allow it to lead you. Additionally, you need to trust that you're not going to miss anything or anyone that is truly destined for you and your experience or your path. And when you follow that spontaneous inner knowing, you will always be on track. It's true. And you're indecisive because you think of so many reasons for going in any direction. And it's never just between yes or no for you. It's yes because of such and such, and it's no because of this, until it becomes so convoluted that you can't decide at all. Trust that first feeling. That is the way to go. Because you likely go through this very lengthy and nerve-wracking process of second guessing yourself, which can own to the insecurity that you likely experience because you don't really trust your intuition. In past lives, you were so accustomed to being part of other people's lives and ideas that you lost touch with your own identity. And all those past lives of identifying with society have taught you reliance on others. But now you need to rely on yourself without trying to explain your intuition. When you apply logic to intuition, you become even more confused. So this process could be really uncomfortable. For many of you, it could even be painful because you become so internally conflicted that you feel like you have no stable base. You can literally see the pros and cons of every decision. And by the time you've thought through all the possible scenarios and ramifications, there's a no-win situation at the end of the road. The entire process is associated suddenly with loss. What do you stand to lose with each of these different options? By focusing on this negative aspect of it, you can easily become more and more insecure. So what you really want is to win something. You have to stay focused on your goal. And when you consider others, it should be in terms of who can help you get what you want. Not in a selfish way, but who's like on your team enough and of the same mindset to help you. Because the irony here is that the minute that you make a firm decision, the universe supports you and everything works out smoothly and beautifully. However, though, before you reach this point, you likely drive everyone around you crazy because you want to check every decision with everyone you know. Your good friends can hear what you're really seeking behind your frantic logical points of view and lovingly point you back to your original own intuitive knowing. You need a lot of help to make your dreams come true, a lot more help than you realize. You need spiritual help straight from the universe itself to reach your goal, and it's available to you in this lifetime if you're open to it. Okay? But you can easily drive people crazy around you because you can ask everybody, what kind of car should I get? What kind of car should I get? Ask 12 people, and then each of those people, because they care about you, they can do some research for you and provide all of this information for you, only for you to like go off and make your own decision at the end because you can't decide between any of those, right? So it's a funny, I think it's funny. I have several people in my life like this. I think maybe because I know about the placement, I think it's kind of funny. But you are learning in this lifetime to step towards your dreams. It's very necessary to let go of the step below, right? Loss is always a part of the greater gain. And to gain the benefits of a truly independent lifestyle, you have to let go of dependency on other people, be it parents, family members, spouse, to gain the benefits of a promotion. You have to let go of your former job. You have to let go of that past relationship in order to really enjoy this relationship. You need to stay focused on gain and new growth, and whatever that past, that thing that was behind you, the step before this, you can't focus on that, right? You can't focus on that. You need to switch your sense of responsibility from evoking a desired response to being an accurate channel for your gift of inner guidance, because you are this, right? Instead of being the caretaker in this lifetime, you are the initiator. It's so simple if you just let it be. The minute you make a decision, I'm going to choose this and I'm not going to take that road, and being very decisive, it's going to just level you up. You don't have to go through the painful intermediate process there of second guessing yourself and all that nonsense. All you have to do is trust what you intuitively feel is right, decide to follow your intuitive path, and use your logic to figure out what best way to make it happen for you. When you're trying to figure out how others will react, what you are seeing in others, you have to let that go. When you make the decision that you have to make, it actually changes the other person's reaction. So don't focus on how other people are treating a situation before you make your decision. Make your decision and then see how they might react to you, right? Because you can't logically predict how others are going to respond to you. You just don't have that. And I know that's a little ouchy to hear, because you might actually think that that's a skill that you have, but you don't. You don't have that skill. You're wrong a lot when it comes to predicting how people are going to respond to you, with thinking that people are thinking things about you that they're probably not, right? All of your experience with decision making brings you back to the same point. In this lifetime, it works when you trust your intuition and you follow your own path at the end of the day. Okay. So things you really want to work on leaning into and developing is a reliance on your intuition, your prophetic abilities, and your invisible guidance. Spirit is around you full throttle all the time. Speaking from higher consciousness, speaking from this higher point within yourself, allowing that intuition to shine. Developing the ability to be spontaneous, developing a sense of freedom and adventure, direct communication free from censorship. Because you might be very opposed and very adverse to any sort of confrontation. Not everything has to be confrontational. So, because you could feel like it's either going to be confrontational or I'm not going to say anything, right? So there's an in between though. Say what you need to say. Just make sure you're saying it with respect. Because that direct communication, free from censorship, done in a respectful way, is empowering. As long as you're exercising respect and empathy, why not? Really work on trusting yourself. spending time alone and in nature, really exercising patience, getting better at being patient and becoming an intuitive, listener and hearing the meaning behind words, being able to read between the lines, right? And you want to kind of leave behind, when I say leave behind, like just loosen the grip a little bit on second guessing what others think. Indecisiveness, let that go a little bit. Perpetually seeking more information, saying what others want to hear, because that could whip right back around and bite you in the behind there. If you're always saying what other people want to hear and promising people things and then you don't follow through with them, that's creating a lot more damage than you realize. You also want to be aware where you might be, invalidating intuitive knowing with logic. Any kind of gossiping, you really want to avoid gossiping, and impatience, waiting for immediate answers, trusting others' perceptions instead of your own, including your own understanding and perceptions about yourself, you know? So you have to just keep telling yourself, when you follow your own sense of truth, you win, right? Your intuition will show you the right road spontaneously as events happen. When you let others be themselves, you're free. When you trust your intuition, verbally communicate what others, need to hear, um, and they're able to listen to you, everybody wins there, right? But that your intuition has to be involved in all of that. It's very, very important, right? So hopefully that makes sense, and I hope that was helpful in some way. Thank you for spending some time with me, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Hi guys. So if your north node is in Capricorn or the 10th house, your south node is in Cancer in the 4th house, this part of the video is for you. So what you need to be aware of is your tendency to be dependent, this desire to be taken care of, where you feel that if no one takes care of you, it's going to be really difficult for you to survive. And this can end up leading you into this unending search, this real trap for security, where you feel that if only you could get a strong enough foundation under yourself, that you'd have the energy to take charge of your life. And you can tend to develop emotional dependencies on others, which force people into becoming a basis for your security. But that's a cup with a hole in the bottom of it, right? You can never get enough reassurance to feel safe. So you never gain that real security that you think you need to be a capable and able adult to take charge of your life. Right? And at the end of the day, at some point, you simply have to be willing to run the risk, to take charge, to assume full responsibility for the consequences of your own life and your choices. When you recognize a goal that's truly important to you and you live by it, you ultimately gain the self-respect and assurance that you need to live responsibly. And when you do that, once you take charge, you end up feeling secure and in control of your own future, of your own destiny, right? But this access, it's just important to call out and note and own it and just embrace it. What you really want is an environment in which you feel safe, protected, cared for, and doted on, a place where you feel like you truly belong. And in order for this to happen for you, you must be willing to let go of the idea that one special person or group of people or whatever, one particular circumstance will provide it just because you think you need it. Instead, you have to take charge of creating what you need for yourself. And by pursuing that, you energize you. Or by finding that ideal set of principles that builds your self-respect, you're going to end up developing feelings of belonging in whatever life circumstances you find yourself in. So it really is about, remember that 4th house Cancer energy is very much about emotional stability, being able to feel like I'm going to be okay. It's ruled by the moon. The moon is very changeable, so it's very difficult to feel very secure. So, of course, we feel like if we can hold on to people, to family, to relationship in a way, well, okay, then I have the stability that I need. But you're actually fine without them, right? You're actually fine. In fact, I will tell you that this nodal axis, you naturally excel at being the boss of a situation, right? So management can be a great way for you to go as far as like a profession. It's a talent that you have. Any kind of public speaking, anything having to do with politics, entrepreneurship, these are all very good choices for you. Others are willing to cooperate with your goals since you approach people under your authority with sensitivity. So to achieve success in any area, you need to be in charge of your own piece of the puzzle. You know what I mean? Now, in addition to that, you have finally honed the instincts for empathy. You are always aware of the feelings of other people. And when you use this ability in management situation, your sensitivity encourages people to assist you with goodwill and enthusiasm. Like they are happy to do you favors. There's no question, right? However, if you involve yourself in professions that stress nurturing as the end result, you can easily become enmeshed in feelings of helplessness and unable to get on the top of a situation. So you understand, like, nurturing, giving, right? If it's giving, giving, giving. You're just much better off in a goal-oriented profession or position that enables you to use your sensitivity to lovingly organize others to work toward a specific goal, right? And these are things like you might feel this if you're in the area of like nursing or anything with caretaking, right? You could feel that burnout, that real burnout there, right? But absolutely like a lovely energy for empathy and giving. Now, in past lives, you have lived many lives as a householder, as a central figure in the home and on the farm, right? You were thoroughly identified with your family or clan, thoroughly. So through these incarnations, you've developed this natural understanding of how families work and the emotional attunement to others that's characteristic of your particular nodal group. But you have not had a lot of past life experience being on your own. And although in this lifetime your greatest joy will come from being out there in the world, the problem is getting you out there. By giving up worldly experiences to be in the home, you sacrificed your sense of confidence and self-respect. So in this lifetime, you're learning to be in charge of your own destiny. Because in the past, your home was everything to you, and all of your needs were taken care of by the family. You were fed, you were clothed, you were given shelter, you were protected. So you came into this lifetime with a tremendous dependent need, and now, let's get rid of that. Things may not go exactly as you want, you know? You have this very strong need to have other people help you get your life together, you know? Um, you could be very, very sensitive about this, right? You can certainly react over emotionally, subconsciously, hoping that others will see how upset you are and they'll, they'll change their behavior towards you. Other people may perceive this as a means of you being controlling and that you're not willing to modify your behavior. Or they feel like they need to modify their behavior just to appease you. So you're learning that in order for your life to work, in a way that's peaceful for you, you must approach situations from a position of being in charge. So you really have to kind of let go of any tendency to manipulate people through emotional outbursts and instead approach others from a position of authority with quiet self-respect that's kind of removed from the emotional reactions, going a lot more swords, right? A lot more air than water, right? And it's a byproduct of taking charge of yourself and having your own life goals, right? Because from a take charge position, you can relate as equals without depending on others, as for your security. So this idea of coming at it, when I say business, I don't mean cold. It's not cold. It's just from a very logical place. And when you're feeling very upset, to kind of stop yourself and ask, where is this coming from? Is this feeling that I have rooted in fear? Is it rooted, did this person just do something to make me feel this way? Or is it just poking at an old fear that I have, right? So you really want to lean into a couple of things. You want to work on developing a couple of areas in your life. The first being approaching life from an adult position by exercising self-control, right? Distance yourself from emotional intensity with family. Really lean into self-respect and create a very goal-oriented mentality for yourself, right? Be very, very sensible in approaching your problem solving. So goals, problem solving, let go of the past. Focus on self-care, very important here, and accepting responsibility for success by bringing it to yourself and not looking for anybody else to bring that to you. Now, things to leave in the past, things to leave behind would be that dependence, that moodiness, the insecurity leading to inaction and limiting yourself through fear. Using the past to avoid the present and spending too much time at home, isolated by yourself. And be careful not to forget to remember yourself. You have to let go of lacking self-respect. You have to let go of avoiding personal risk. You have to let go of controlling others through emotional overreactions. So hopefully that makes sense. Thanks for hanging with me, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Hi guys, so if your North Node is in Aquarius or the 11th house, or if your South Node is in Leo or the 5th house, this part of the video is for you. So we're talking about that Aquarius North Node. You guys need to be aware of your need for others' approval. And thinking that if you have the approval of others, that your life is on the right track. But that's, like I said, I've been saying in a lot of videos, that's a cup with a hole in it, right? It's a bottomless pit. Because that Aquarius North Node can never get enough approval to feel satisfied, to feel free, to be yourself. You guys have a hard time with that. Actually, for you, the approval of others is a completely false barometer. You have to really risk the disapproval of others to be true to your own unorthodox ideas in order to develop the deeper and more satisfying feeling of self-approval. Now, the trap that Aquarius North Node, you guys could get into, is this unending search for risk-taking, especially in romance, right? If I could just have a happy love life, then I'll feel complete and I can begin to do my part to help other people, right? To help people out in life. But if you don't balance that romantic energy with commitment to some type of either humanitarian cause or something that helps other people, it becomes too intense and you can inadvertently destroy the very relationship that you so badly wanted. So there's also got to be this idea of recognizing your ultimate goals and gains, right? These ultimate goals and gains, are they, excuse me, are they shared with a partner? Are they on the same track? Do you have all of the macro elements of the relationship in place that you need to have? Meaning, do you both follow, let's, for example, the same view of family and faith and politics and the world view? All of those macro things really do need to be in place, right? So the bottom line here is it going to be very difficult for you to ever feel that you can dedicate yourself to other people, larger concerns out in the world, unless you understand your own personal desires, but then understand that you need to expand to remember how to balance out your view of your goals and gains in your future with another person, right? And it's very interesting here because when you add, you have a lot of talents here to make universal causes successful. Your efforts are energizing and rewarding to people around you, be it on a societal or global scale, but also just within your friend group or within the group of just people who you might even deal with at work. Your crew, your network of people in your life, your tribe. You have such a beautiful energy to energize people in this space. But in doing that, when you dedicate yourself, and this is something you have to keep in mind, when you dedicate yourself, and I mean really dedicate yourself to a larger cause, for you and a partner, you are going to feel like the universe is going to fulfill you on a personal level as well. So not just making it about something that you want. I want what I want. Right? This is the relationship I want. This is what I want to do. This is I, right? Here, it's about the second that you open yourself up and work on balancing out that axis, you have so much power within your work group, your friend group, your relationship, your family as well. This is very connected to children as well. I mean, this is truly like the old adage, be careful of what you ask for because you just might get it. I mean, that's like really what's going on here. It's a very interesting placement, but it just requires you to open up and say, okay, I can't be all about me. By the way, not that you're at all like that, just there's a natural disconnect about this. Whenever we're dealing with the sign of Aquarius, there is a natural disconnect. Period. The end. That is just the way it is. It's very airy, it's very pensive, it's very in the mind, it's very out of the box, different, loving, but in their own way. You know what I mean? Here it's like, embracing other, because we're talking about it working with that fifth house, which is the house of other people, falling in love, love affairs, romance, children, joy, fun, vacations, taking a chance, doing all those things. So being willing, you have to be open to more experiences and your life will become so much more fulfilled. Now, that's what you're going through right now. Past life energy, you say past life or early environment, but I feel like for you, there's a very heavy, like this is past life energy because for you guys were kings and queens in past lives, which I think is pretty great. All right. You were either a king, a queen, an entertainer, whatever it was, you were special. People saw you as being special and you loved it. Receiving all of that applause and admiration formed an ego that is just encrusted, right, in that way. And so now what happens is that can get in the way of you feeling equal with other people because you came into this lifetime still feeling special. So, to regain a sense of equality and belonging, you need to give others all the excess energy of fame that was given to you. And then you could do this by using your fabulous strength to further some sort of humanitarian cause, some sort of shared cause, whether it's with a partner, your children, a family, whatever it is, right? You are here to help the new age, doing things out of the box differently. Like your destiny is come down from your isolated thrones and reestablishing yourself as part of the collective. And I do want to say something that I am seeing, okay, in my own practice. So this is completely anecdotal, but I work with a lot of different people. And this nodal axis, my friends, is very forward thinking. I mean, I have clients who are just making the most incredible breakthroughs in makeup and hair and stem cell and blockchain. And I'm like, what? Like, and it's just happening. And these are people with this nodal axis. So you think about it, that 11th house, it rules technology, it rules advances in science, advances in medicine. It's very connected to humanitarian ideals and goals. It's goals and gains. It's the future. It's anything that's out of the ordinary that hasn't happened. It rules electricity. It rules data. It rules, I mean, everything that 11th house Aquarius. So when we're talking about this, you guys are the ones who are going to be creating these circumstances that we experience in this lifetime. So that's really important to know. Now, as an aside from that, kind of through a different lens, but I want to make sure that I get through all of my notes here. When something unfortunate happens, you can tend to respond like, to me? It's happening to me? Like you could not believe that you're deserving of bad luck, right? And one of the lessons that you're learning is that life happens to everyone, right? From all of your past lives of privilege, you are kind of outraged when you're treated like everyone else because in a certain way from in past lives you were kind of naive and spoiled. Now this can also make you feel very left out. I'm saying that you feel different than other people. Sometimes you may feel very left out. And that's where the specialness manifests. It depends. If you have your nodal energy retrograde, you can feel very left out. And depending on, because I do see this manifestation a lot, that people just feel very left out, like they're not part of the group, they're not part of, the friend group, or maybe they are, but they feel very different. There's always something there, right? But it's this idea of the past life positions of rulership, right? Again, as chiefs, as kings, as dictators, again, the head of household, you were VIPs and you were accustomed to getting your own way. And because of this, you can tend to be demanding and take it as an affront when others don't listen to your wishes. Although they do have very good hearts. I mean, no one means any harm to you, and you have a very open heart back to them. You have so much emotional energy that you can often bulldoze other people without even realizing it in the name of trying to help them. You certainly are an expert at pushing the energy of the id in order to get the results that you want. There's no question about that. And in this lifetime, you're here to share the power of your will with other people. So you need to consciously focus on others and encourage others to get in touch with their own needs and to manifest their own dreams. But you are someone who's able to do that, to get them motivated, to get them to understand these things, to get them to see things differently. But you do want to make sure that you have to come out of yourself and do that, right? And some of you might be like, Jackie, I am so not at all like that. I am not at all like spoiled and I need, okay. You may like to be alone. Do you know what I'm saying? Where you don't even realize the impact that that has on people around you, or you have your own way of liking to do things. Right. And you think that that just makes you unique or whatever. And that does. I mean, it makes you unique. But what I'm suggesting here is that you might try wanting to open yourself up, right? Step out of the shyness mode, particularly if you have retrogrades in this space, any of the retrogrades in that house, the house placements. You want to make sure that you step out of that comfort zone, step out from behind the wall, right? And really listen to people and connect with people. This will be very nice for you. So definitely as a way of just becoming a better version of yourself, really getting even more clear with your objectivity, being able to see the total picture, having a very strong desire for friendships and making them, making decisions for the group or the couple's best interests, not only yours, willingness to share unconventional ideas, a willingness to champion humanitarian causes, exercising active participation in groups. This is going to be so good for you. Awareness of equality, relating to others as individuals apart from their specific roles in your life, like lover, partner, doctor, business person, whatever, creating win-win situations and recognizing how other people are special. These are all things to work on. Now, things that you might want to release your grip on a little bit or work on balancing out, if not letting go of altogether, is an insistence on getting your own way, making changes just to exercise authority, attachment to taking risks, be it romance or gambling, willfulness and stubbornness, attachment to a need of approval, to the need of having a need for the approval of other people, any kind of melodramatic tendencies, doing what's expected instead of following your heart, let that go. Unbridled passion, going to extremes in something, unawareness of others' importance, or prideful responses based on fear, right? You find that you don't mean to, but you could be reactive instead of responsive based on a fear, right? When particularly in like an interpersonal relationship or a family connection, right? So these are some ideas to think about. Hopefully this was helpful. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Hi guys, so if your North Node is in the 12th house or Pisces and your South Node is in the 6th house or Virgo, this part of the video is for you. So let's start by talking about what you need to be a little careful of. And that would be your compulsive need for order. Nothing like a good Virgo energy to get that going. Well, you could feel like your survival depends on everything being in order, right? According to your worldview and how you think things ought to be. And this could end up leading you to this bit of an unending search for perfection, right? Where you could just say to yourself, if only everyone around me were more perfect and following the plan, then I could trust and I could relax. But it is that cup with the hole in the bottom of it. It's a bottomless pit. Right. And it's just since life and other people are never going to be in a static state long enough of perfection for you to feel secure, your expectations can lead to continual tension and anxiety because life and others are never going to be ideal enough for you to let go of control. And because of that, you continuously postpone trust and real happiness. So at the end of the day, The bottom line here involves you accepting that the universe's plan is better for you than anything that you could come up with, right? And that everything is unfolding exactly how it's supposed to be, regardless of how it seems to you. The only place that you can create perfect order is within yourself by surrendering to a higher power and trusting that everything is indeed in order. And the irony here is that when you blindly trust in that infinite, in that spirit, in God, and accept that everything contributes to your greater happiness, you suddenly become aware of the larger picture. And you can truly start to sense how things are working to your advantage. And then you can let go of control and you can actually be happy, right? Allowing, really understanding that this is just all part of the process, right? And it could be a little tricky here. I'm not saying that this is a one and done thing. This is not an event working on this. This is certainly a process because what you really want is to be right all the time and to be perfect in the sense that you and everyone else are following the plan 100% of the time because you want everyone to be in total perfect alignment with the plan that you think is right. First, you need to accept that you do not even know what the plan is. You just don't. You need to turn away from that rigid physical and material planning and refocus on a larger spiritual vision. 6th house, 12th house, Virgo, Pisces. And it's through trusting and surrendering to the wisdom of God, of a higher power, that you can watch life's circumstances with the conviction that what's unfolding is indeed the plan. And then the way becomes much clearer, and you become filled with a calm and feel in alignment with the plan, with life, because the spiritual vision is the energy of perfection that you're seeking, right? We want to, with this axis, you want to try to control as much as you can and everybody do what they need to do. And I totally get it. Having this axis, this is what manifests is that, right? But you're living a larger plan that you're not a puppet to it. You still have choice, but it's not possible to try to control anything outside of ourselves. Pisces rules enlightened states of consciousness and that oceanic feeling of oneness with life. And at times you can slip into this enlightened state, this state of total connection with the universe. And your life purpose is to nurture that state, make that part of your existence. You experience snippets of it from time to time. This is something that you might really want to lean into, right? That element of spirituality. Now, when it comes to your workspace, so and what you're doing on the day to day, you're somebody who really needs to have your own office or your own space, right? You work very well alone. You enjoy projects that involve discovering and carrying out a vision where the work is done in private, right? Maybe research, library work, computer work, anything that's done behind the scenes as well. And you can succeed in any profession that involves that individual pursuit of spiritual truth, including working and living in any sort of religious environment, be it a monastery, convent, anything like that, but equally so, astrology, light work, hospitals, drug rehab, um, rehabilitation centers, anything like that. That's all very Pisces, very 12th house. You could be a fantastic artist, a great craftsperson. You could be very, very creative. So you may even be a performer, musician, bringing your private dreams to other people. You're also awesome at promoting. You're very good promoter because you're very good at behind the scenes activities. Even if you work a regular job, you need to allow yourself ample time for solitude and reflection. This is like medicine for you. This is like a non-negotiable, right? And also you could be very, very sensitive to the energies in any room where you feel like you have to kind of go home and just shake it off. I'm just okay, I have to take an energy shower after being around those people. You also have a natural gift for noticing the pertinent details and analyzing the significance of information, which to me is such a great skill. When you see these past life gifts as a backdrop for manifesting your dreams, your innate practicality is going to help you, right? This is a very nice little backdrop to just have. However, if you involve yourself in a profession that stresses attention to detail, that stresses in-depth analysis, perfection, accuracy, like bookkeeping or systems analysis, so something where you can't mess up, you're likely going to experience a lot of anxiety and restlessness. You're not going to be happy. So you're much better off when you're in a profession that focuses on manifesting a vision, empowering you to use your practical skills to bring into reality, to bring something into reality. So some healing, really good healing affirmations for you as you work on this. So just say to yourself, all is well, everything is happening just as it should. When I let go and I let God, I win. My survival is not threatened by disorder. It isn't my job, it's God's job, right? Let Jesus take the wheel, right? Even if you don't believe in Jesus, okay, you get the idea. This idea of giving over to spirit. Tendencies to leave behind, hyperanxiety and overanalysis. I mean, those are my top two for that one. Obsessive worry, exaggerating the importance of details, critical first reactions. Let's let go, try to let go of these things. Fault finding, making others wrong, excessive anxiety over making a mistake. It's like, oh my God, I can't make a mistake, right? Needing to be perfect, right? Staying in unpleasant situations, being inflexible. You also have to be careful of like starting projects and not finishing them, because if you don't finish it, then people can't be critical of you, right? Not going after something because you say that you're shy or you say that it's not in your wheelhouse. Well, that's another manifestation of this. So you really want to work on developing compassion, being not judgmental, surrendering that anxiety to a higher power, welcoming change, and trusting in positive outcomes. These are all going to be very, very good things for you. So I hope this was helpful in some way. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.